Is DLive live? Let's check. DLive. It sounds like it. Is Twitch twitchy? DLive. Is YouTube Tubi? It seems Tubi. Or not Tubi. Is Facey Bookie. Let's check. DLive. It sounds Facey Bookie. And Twitter. Is Twitter twittery? Is Twitter? Seems to be. Oh, Rumble. Is the Rumble rumbling? Rumbling. Seems rumbly. Alright, now all there is left is the waiting. Okay, YouTube chat is working. Good. We got 2 minutes left. And then it all hits. Yes, Friday. I sent a DM about that. I need to squeeze in some kind of a 5:30. I could do it by remote if need be. So just whatever we know, whenever we know when, I will work around it. We got about a minute and a little change. As the peoples roll in, appreciate that. The Texan, cruise director extraordinaire. That story yesterday about Zoso being on ice was so good. Ten seconds until the row is on the showed. Welcome to the 9dNation.
בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Thousands of years later, it was Wednesday at 11 p.m. Central. Get your passport ready and be prepared to declare to the customs agents any edible plants or miscellaneous worldviews. You're now crossing into
the nation with no denomination.
Greetings. Tonight, we dine upon chapter 27. In case you're new here, that means of Genesis, the Bible. We're on episode 60. We have gone through, in the last 59 episodes, Genesis chapter 1 through 26. So sticking with the newish format first, as maybe a couple people are trickling in, let's get the Bible chapter, Genesis 27, let's get it read. Why? That's just weird. Oh, I know why. Because I didn't... Oops. Every single time. And let me fix that. Okay, that's fixed. Seems like I should move that to the right a little bit. There we go. I'm going to let the man read chapter 27 while we're settling in. So, just turn the speakers up loud, go get your popcorn, get your sodas, whatever you need. This is a 9-minute reading. This chapter is long. We're going to jam through it. Usually about 40 minutes gets us through a long chapter these days. So let's see what happens. Are you ready?
פרק כ"ז. ויהי כי זקן יצחק, ותכהנה עיניו מראות, ויקרא את עשיו בנו הגדול, ויאמר אליו, בני, ויאמר אליו, הנני. ויאמר, הננה זקנתי, לא ידעתי יום מותי, ועתה שא חיליך, תלייך וקשתך, וצא השדה, וצודה לי ציד. ועשה לי מטעמים כאשר אהבתי, והביאה לי ואוכלה, בעבור תברכך נפשי בטרם אמות. ורבקה שומעת בדבר יצחק אל עשיו בנו, וילך עשיו השדה לצוד ציד להביא. ורבקה אמרה אל יעקב בנה לאמור, הנה שמעתי את אביך מדבר אל עשיו אחיך לאמור, הביאה לי ציד ועשה לי מטעמים ואוכלה, ואברכך לפני אדוני לפני מותי. ועתה בני שמע בקולי, לאשר אני מצווה אותך. לך נא אל הצאן, וקח לי משם שני גדיי עזים טובים, ואעשה אותם מטעמים לאביך כאשר אהב. והבאת לאביך ואכל, בעבור אשר יברכך לפני מותו. ויאמר יעקב אל רבקה אמו, הן עשיו אחי איש שעיר, ואנוכי איש חלק. אולי ימושני אבי, והייתי בעיניו כמתעתע, והבאתי עלי קללה ולא ברכה. ותאמר לו אמו, עלי קללתך בני, אך שמע בקולי, ולך קח לי. וילך ויקח, ויבא לאמו, ותעש אמו מטעמים כאשר אהב אביו. ותיקח רבקה את בגדי עשיו בנה הגדול החמודות, אשר איתה בבית, ותלבש את יעקב בנה הקטן. ואת עורות גדיי העזים הלבישה על ידיו, ועל חלקת צוואריו. ותיתן את המטעמים ואת הלחם אשר עשת ביד יעקב בנה. ויבוא אל אביו ויאמר, אבי, ויאמר, הנני, מי אתה בני? ויאמר יעקב אל אביו, אנוכי עשיו בכורך, עשיתי כאשר דיברת אלי, קום נא שבה, ואכלה מצדי, בעבור תברכני נפשך. ויאמר יצחק אל בנו, מה זה מיהרת למצוא בני? ויאמר, כי הקרא אדוני אלוהיך לפני. ויאמר יצחק אל יעקב, גשה נא ואמושך בני, האתה זה בני עשיו, אם לא. ויגש יעקב אל יצחק אביו, וימושהו ויאמר, הכל כל יעקב, והידיים ידי עשיו. ולא הכירו, כי היו ידיו כדי עשיו אחיו שעירות, ויברכהו. ויאמר, אתה זה בני עשיו, ויאמר אני. ויאמר, הגישה לי ואוכלה מצד בני, למען תברכך נפשי. ויגש לו ויאכל, ויבא לו יין וישת. ויאמר אליו יצחק אביו, גשה נא ושקע לי בני. ויגש וישק לו, וירח את ריח בגדיו, ויברכהו, ויאמר, ראה ריח בני כריח שדה, אשר ברכו אדוני. ויתן לך האלוהים מטל השמיים ומשמני הארץ, ורוב דגן ותירוש. יעבדוך עמים, וישתחוו לך לאומים. הווה גביר לאחיך, וישתחוו לך בני אמך. אורריך ארור, ומברכך ברוך. ויהי כאשר כילה יצחק לברך את יעקב, ויהי אך יצא יעקב מאת פני יצחק אביו, ועשיו אחיו בא מצדו. ויעש גם הוא מטעמים, ויבא לאביו, ויאמר לאביו, יקום אבי ויאכל מצד בנו, בעבור תברכני נפשך. ויאמר לו יצחק אביו, מי אתה? ויאמר, אני בנך בכורך עשיו. ויחרד יצחק חרדה גדולה עד מאוד, ויאמר, מי איפה הוא הצד ציד? ויבא לי ואוכל מכל בטרם תבוא, ואברכהו גם ברוך יהיה. כשמוע עשיו את דברי אביו, ויצעק צעקה גדולה ומרה עד מאוד. ויאמר לאביו, ברכני גם אני אבי. ויאמר, בא אחיך במרמה, ויקח ברכתך. ויאמר, אחי קרא שמו יעקב, ויעקבני זה פעמיים. את בכורתי לקח, והנה עתה לקח ברכתי. ויאמר, הלא אצלת לי ברכה. ויען יצחק ויאמר לעשיו, הן גביר שמתיו לך, ואת כל אחיו נתתי לו לעבדים, ודגן ותירוש שמכתיו, ולך אפוא מה אעשה בני? ויאמר עשיו אל אביו, הברכה אחת היא לך אבי, ברכני גם אני אבי. ויישא עשיו קולו ויבך. ויען יצחק אביו ויאמר אליו, הנה משמני הארץ יהיה מושבך, ומטל השמיים מעל, ועל חרבך תחיה, ואת אחיך תעבוד. והיה כאשר תריד, ופרקת עולו מעל צוואריך. ויסתום עשיו את יעקב על הברכה אשר ברכו אביו. ויאמר עשיו בלבו, יקרבו ימי אבל אבי, ואהרגה את יעקב אחי. ויוגד לרבקה את דברי עשיו בנה הגדול, ותשלח ותקרא ליעקב בנה הקטן, ותאמר אליו, הנה עשיו אחיך מתנחם לך להורגך, ועתה בני שמע בקולי, וקום ברח לך אל לבן אחי חרנה. וישבת עמו ימים אחדים, עד אשר תשוב חמת אחיך, עד שוב אף אחיך ממך, ושכח את אשר עשית לו, ושלחתי ולקחתיך משם, למה אשקל גם שניכם יום אחד. ותאמר רבקה אל יצחק, קצתי וחיי מפני בנות חטא, אם לוקח יעקב אישה מבנות חטא, כאלה מבנות הארץ, למה לי חיים?
So, with the help from the Texan, I think we've got the Rosetta Stone. And we've got it figured out. What he was saying was, a Louie, way oh, we got to go now. Yeah. I think that's what he was saying. Good one, the Texan. Let's play the cookie animation. Someone gave a cookie.
Looky, here comes Cookie, walking down the street. Looky, I call him Cookie, 'cause he's sweet. Ooh, looky, here comes Cookie, what a lucky brain. Looky, I call him Cookie, 'cause he takes a cane.
Also, we have in the house the one. Dang, wrong button. The one, the only, the original, the underscore, classical chick. Is in the house. Classical chick may already be asleep because that song, Louie, way I go, blah, 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 might put her to sleep. Hawk a loogie by the Snotsman. Good one, Duppy. All right, so let's switch on over to. I'm gonna now read all of that in English, good old-fashioned English, in case you remember that language. Before I do, if you've not been with us, or just to remind us all, here's what I've collected up, or we, the chat impacts this. Collected up for the first 26 chapters. Water-based reset, law, no human demon half-breeds, no murder, no blood drinking. Shemite Abraham moved to Philistine and had an Egyptian Ishmael who sired 12 princes, and a Haranian Isaac, or Yishak, who had Esau the Red, who married back into the Hamites, and Isaac favored second-born Haranian Jacob. Why did I say it's not so much? Anyway, all right, till chapter 27. Classical chick is still coherent. We'll let us be the judge of that, classical chick. Just kidding. All right, now it came about when Isaac was old and his eyes were too dim to see that he called. Hang on, I gotta take a note. There's a comment that I want to throw in there when we get to comments. Eyes too old to see. All right. He called his older son Esau and said to him, "My son." He said to him, "Here I am." That's Esau saying, "I hear him." Isaac said, "Behold now, I am old, and I do not know the day of my death. Now then, please take your gear, your quiver, and your bow, go out to the field and hunt game for me, and prepare a savory dish for me, such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, so that my soul may bless you before I die." Rebekah was listening while Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game to bring home, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Behold, I heard your father speak to your brother Esau, saying, 'Bring me some game and prepare a savory dish for me that I may eat and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death.' Now therefore, my son, listen to me as I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats from there, that I may prepare them as a savory dish for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall bring it to your father, that he may eat, so that he may bless you before his death. Jacob answered his mother Rebekah, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I'm a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me. Then I will be as a deceiver in his sight, and I will bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. But his mother said to him, Your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go get them for me. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and his mother made a savory food such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her elder son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the young goats on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. So she also gave the savory food and the bread which she had made to her son Jacob. Then he came to his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am. Who are you, my son? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Get up. Please sit and eat of my game, that you may bless me. Isaac said to his son, How is it that you have it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord your God caused it to happen to me. Then Isaac said to Jacob, Please come close, that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob came close to Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, Are you really my son Esau? And he said, I am. So he said, Bring it to me, and I will eat of my son's game, that I may bless you. And he brought it to him, and he ate, and he also brought him some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, Please come close and kiss me, my son. So he came close and kissed him. When he smelled the smell of his garments, he blessed him and said, See, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. Now may God give you the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and an abundance of grain and new wine. May peoples serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master of your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you. Now it came about, as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had hardly gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. Then he also made savory food and brought it to his father, and he said to his father, Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that you may bless me. Isaac his father said to him, Who are you? And he said, I'm your son, your firstborn, Esau. Then Isaac trembled violently and said, Who was he then that hunted game and brought it to me, so that I ate all of it before you came and blessed him? Yes, he shall be blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Your brother came deceitfully and has taken away your blessing. Then he said, Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. And he said, Have you not reserved a blessing for me? But Isaac replied to Esau, Behold, I have made him your master, and all his relatives I have given to him as servants, and with grain and new wine I have sustained him. Now as for you then, what can I do, my son? Esau said to his father, Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. So Esau lifted his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, Behold, away from the fertility of the earth shall be your dwelling, and away from the dew of heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and your brother you shall serve. But it shall come about, when you become restless, that you will break his yoke from your neck. So Esau bore a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, The days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. Now, when the words of her elder son Esau were reported to Rebekah, she sent and called her younger son Jacob and said to him, Behold, your brother Esau is consoling himself concerning you by planning to kill you. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice and arise. Flee to Haran, to my brother Laban. Stay with him a few days until your brother's fury subsides, until your brother's anger against you subsides, and he forgets what you did to him. Then I will send and get you from there. Why should I be bereaved of both of you in one day? Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm tired of living because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife from the daughters of Heth like these, then the daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me? Wow, that was a long chapter, wasn't it? It's one of the longest, I think. So, I want to show you a few new words. There's quite a bit of new words. Let me catch up on the chat, and then we'll have to grind through this. This may go slightly over the 40 minutes that we often try to keep this at. Jess 1 is in the house. Nova says, this is a fun chapter. iPhone. We're now helping soothe Classical Chick into those pre-sleepy sleeps. Airy red bugger. Esau was a Wookiee. Yeah, Duppy. Voices. Yeah, I'm doing voices. Did we disregard Jacob attaining the birthright? No, we did. We did that chapter. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at verse 1. There's a good number of new words because this is a long-ass chapter. So verse 1 has this word, this one right here. His eyes were dim. That's the use is pretty clear. He's like semi-blind or half-blind or nearly all completely blind. There's 8 examples of this word used in the Old Testament. It can be despondent, dull. It's used in 1 Samuel one time as restrained. Verse 3 has a couple words for us. 2, 3. Let's look here. We need word 66, 79. This one right here. Sud, that's to hunt every time it's used, and it's used 18 times. It's from a similar word, sayid, which is to catch. So that kind of makes sense. We've also got this word here, sayid. Just mentioned it. Sayid. Sud and sayid. It means, sayid means food, sorry. Seda. Sorry, this word is seda. I don't know what I'm talking about. These are all food words. All right. Now, let's gotta go to 85 to this one right here. Telieka. Teli, that's a quiver, so it'll have arrows in it. There's only one use, but it comes from a word to hang. So like maybe hang it off your shoulder or off your back. There's 28 examples of that word, tala, so they think it comes from that word. Let's go to verse 4. Matam, that's like a delicacy or a dainty meat or a savory meat. It doesn't necessarily mean savory. I can see the translation. Probably it does here. Because he's going to like pretty rough food. They're making it clear that Isaac and Esau are men's men, right? And that, prissy prancy boy Jacob is prancing around. I mean, it just leaps right out of the story. So savory I could kind of see. But it has a... Now, the word for delicate or dainty food or meat comes from another word, ta'am, which means to taste or perceive. So it involves the opinion of the taster. I thought that was interesting. God's always giving humans this ability to name the animals, tend the garden, decide what tastes good, stuff like that. Anyway, this word only has 8 usages in the Old Testament, but the word ta'am, to perceive, has 11, so it's pretty solid. Let's go to verse 9. Verse 9, we're going to look at this word right here, gadaye. It's a young goat. 16 examples of this word. It comes from, But in the context, there's no question that's what it means. I was cool with it. Let's go to verse 11. We need the word, this one here, halak, smooth, like a smooth criminal. It can mean flattering, so like a smooth talker even. There's only 4 examples in the Old Testament. We can back this up a little bit because there's a very similar word that means to be slippery or smooth or even a flatterer, and it's a similar word. Looks almost the same, and it's got 9 examples. So there's really 13 examples of this word that I could find. So he seems like a smooth talker, so I can buy that. He's the opposite of hairy, obviously, in the story. Ginger 45 is on a full lurk. Ginger 45, nice. Why would Esau be mad? He's just selfish. That's a very good question, Nova. I think he's like, he thought he didn't do anything wrong this time around. The first time around, he kind of gave away his birthright. But this time around, he's just doing what Dad said, right? So he got ripped off. I would agree. I hadn't thought about that much during the prep. But yeah, you're right on target. Let's go to word. Where is it? This one right here, Sair. This is an interesting word. It can mean hairy or goat-like. So even like, devilish, it even can mean. Like a satyr, like those half-goat men. So this is a very interesting word. There's 59 examples in the Old Testament. And here, clearly it's hairy versus smooth. But there's a connotation in the story of him being goat man, basically. Even almost horned. It's not that much of a stretch. You see it in a lot of the commentaries. They're not saying he had actual horns. They're just saying he's the devil of the story, if that makes sense. Let's go to verse 12. Let's look at 49, 59. Let's see. Yamuseni comes from mashash. That's to feel or grope up close. It's typically used when someone's looking around without good visuals. In the 9 examples that it's used in the Old Testament. Now let's go to 7045. This one here, Kalala. This is vilification. There's 33 examples. It's to be slight. It's a curse. But there's 2 kinds of curses. There's the big beefy curse or the curse that says you're meaningless, which is, cursing someone into oblivion, right? So we need that word there. We also need 8591. We've never seen this one. A deceiver. Ta'a. It can mean to mock also. But the context is pretty clear here. There's only 2 examples in the Old Testament. It's very rarely used, but he's like a usurper, a cheater, a deceiver. We know what he just did. So I don't think we need a lot of backup, but it's only used in 2 places in the entire Old Testament. Let's run up to verse 15. Let's get 25, 32. Chachamudot comes from chemda. That's to desire or delight. It's going to be the good meal that he's eating, I think there. Is that right? The finest. The clothes. There's 25 examples in the Old Testament. So it comes from, it's pretty much the main word there. Let's look at verse 16. There's a couple words there we need. We need this one here, Helikat. That's a field. There's 29 examples of the Old Testament, and it comes from Chelek, which is 67 examples of the Old Testament, which would be like land territories. So it's the field. Makes sense. Like big chunks of land, like wild open land, or not necessarily wild, but not in a house. Let's look also at Sarara. That's the back of the neck. There's 41 examples of the Old Testament. It can mean adversary, which is an interesting thing, like back of the neck and adversary, stiff-necked maybe. But here, since there's those two meanings, we know this means the neck. Let's run up to verse 21. Skipping ahead, we need Vamuska. That's mush. That's to feel. There's only used 3 times, but it's always the hand perceiving, all 3 times. I looked at studylight.org, and it has similar words for silk or finding things in the dark. So I'm willing to kind of trust that translation. What other choice do I really have? But hey, we're just learning. I'll catch up on the chat here in a second. Let me just get through these words. Verse 26. We need this word here. Nashak, that's to kiss. It's or touch. There's 35 examples in the Old Testament. So it's very much like a neck hug, right? Like just come close and it's so fun to be right next to you. I mean, I could see family members. Like I just went to Long Island this last weekend. It's not like around here where I'm living. You got to smooch. You got to smooch the cheek. Now, boys and boys don't smooch. So like uncles, nephews, they wouldn't smooch. But any combo where it's 2 ladies or a lady and a dude of any stripe, you've got to kiss on the cheek. It's not permitted otherwise. And hug. It's very touchy-feely. All right, anyway, that was Long Island. 5401. Yeah, so 35 examples in the Old Testament. Let's go to verse 28. Got a few words here. We got this one, Dagon. It's interesting because it sounds like the evil god Dagon, or Dagon, right? And it's corn or grain or some kind of thing like that. There's 40 examples in the Old Testament. It's one brush stroke off, so I wonder if, they thought Dagon helped bring them the wheat. Now, he's mostly a sea god, but still. Daga means to multiply or increase. Let's look also at Mital. Comes from Tal. 31 examples in the Old Testament, and it's like the morning dew that covers the vegetation, and it's used this way every single time. Like it's really unambiguous. And 49:24. This is mashman. It's fatness. So this would be like a rich dish or a fertile field or a fat dude. There's 7 examples in the Old Testament, but it comes from the word also shaman, which has 5 more usages. And it's like bounty, maybe, or to grow fat. So it makes sense in this context. It's like I'm agreeing with everything they say. Why wouldn't I? We got 8492. Tell you, this is a long chapter, guys. This is going to be the longest one, probably. I don't know if it's technically the longest, but Tirosh, that's fresh or new wine. So there's 38 examples in the Old Testament. Pretty much makes sense. Let's go to verse 29. Gebir, that means Lord or Master. There's 2 examples in the Old Testament. There's only 2 examples. It comes from Gabar, which is to be strong or mighty. So I think here you could translate it as Lord or Master, but maybe just like the one up, the mightier, the one that will be, when there's a tie, it's going to break to Jacob. I mean, so just I'm tamping that word down here just a bit. Let's think of that as we talk, go through it. This word here, hewe, comes from hava or breathe. 6 examples in the Old Testament. Just to breathe. Let's see how it's used here. Breathe, master, over your brothers. I don't get it. Study Light says it's somebody looking at a great sight with his hands raised and taking a long breath. So, like, it took your breath away. They're so amazing you're going to bow down to them. So that kind of strengthens that position of Jacob. So maybe it is master. I could see now that I'm thinking about it. Those nor'easterners are kind of odd, says Rev. You're absolutely right. Shock the Monkey is a song for Tubin. Absolutely. Don't you know? Let's see here. Hedgehog and metrosexual waxer cannot be Tains. I know you're talking about Jacob. He groped him like Biden. It's funny. Same reason the Lenni Lenape sold Staten Island to the colonists. Now they want it back. Who would have known that the word Jacob means literally heel grabber? Yeah, it's some kind of idiomatic phrase, I'm told, right? There's still a receipt about Staten Island. They don't have a word for personal space. No, but they don't. Dagon Duppy does confirm, associated with agriculture. Fish carcasses as fertilizer. Great point. I should have thought of that. That's awesome. All right, where were we? I think we're going to verse 33. Man, this is a long chapter. I'm going to have to just scream through the Rosslation and just bring the questions up during community forum. With Black Yoda co-host coming on as soon as we get the words done. Okay. More words. Oh, there's so many more words. Okay, guys, I'm going to just cut this super short. I'm not going to show them on screen. I'm just going to read the words you need to know. In verse 33, we see ifo, or then. It means then, where, like when or when. It means when, then. 15 examples in the Old Testament. Charad, that's to tremble or be terrified. 39 examples in the Old Testament. Charada, that's trembling with fear and anxiety. You see the similarity in the two words. So he trembled. Nakar, that's to regard, or recognize. So you kind of, you contemplate, you look, you see. There's 50 examples in the Old Testament. Mar or Mara, that's bitterness. 41 examples in the Old Testament. Mirma, that's deceit or treachery. 39 examples in the Old Testament. Atzal, that's to with reserve or withdraw or withhold. There's only 5 examples, but it comes from etzel, which has 61 examples, which is to join together. So you can kind of see it's a portion held aside the way it's used here. He's like, didn't you save a blessing to the side for me? We need akab, that's to follow at the heel. We were just talking about that in chat. So to ankle bite, basically. 5 examples in the Old Testament. It's a trickster move. It's used in chapter 3 of Genesis also, which is kind of interesting. You know, where he's the snake is biting the heel. He's like a heel biter. Samak, that's to lean, lay, rest, or support. There's 48 examples in the Old Testament. Pretty straightforward. Al, which means height. 6 examples in the Old Testament. But it comes from the word Allah, not Allah, but Allah. I tried to find a tie-in for that. Nothing doing. There's 888 examples of to climb up. So I'm willing to believe that that related word means height. Ol, that means a yoke. There's 40 examples in the Old Testament. Pretty straightforward. You'll shake that yoke off. Parak, that's to tear apart or tear away. There's 10 examples in the Old Testament. That's it's got a redeeming connotation. So when you're ready, you can redeem that yoke off yourself. You can escape the slavery. So the only benefit he gave Jacob or Esau was when you're sick of it, when you're truly sick of it, you'll be free. Rude, that's to wander restlessly and roam. 4 examples in the Old Testament. It's the picture of a man going through a door. So I kind of thought of Truman escaping out into the wild. 24 examples of Ebel in the morn is it's a mourning of death. Satam, that's to bear a grudge or to cherish your animosity against. There's 6 examples. Every time that's used in the Old Testament, all 6 times, there's a rivalry aspect. So it kind of makes sense. Chema, that's heat or rage. 124 examples, nearly always translated as rage. Shakak, that's to forget. 103 examples. Pretty cool with that. Shakol, that's to be bereaved. Often bereaved of children. 24 examples in the Old Testament. Kutz, last word, to feel a loathing or a sickening dread. Only 9 examples. Study Light said it's like put something to an end. Okay, so let me just really, it's right at the 40-minute mark. I'd like to be done by now. I had prepped a roslation. Let me just read it real quick. I'm going to read it super fast, and then we'll bring in the chats, bring in the panels. When Isaac was really old and nearly blind, he called Esau the older and said, "Yo!" And he's like, "Here." He's like, "I'm old. I don't know how much longer I got, so please go get me a good fresh hunting meal. Make me a really great meal. You know how I like it, and I'll give you my soul blessing before I die." Rebekah happened to overhear. Esau went hunting, where Rebekah told Jacob. Isaac sent Esau hunting for a great late-in-life meal and would then arrange the big official Ahiah witnessed blessing before death. "So now do this. Bring back some good kid goats. I'll make you a great dish. Take that into your father so you get the blessing." And Jacob's like, "I'm not hairy enough to fool him. I'm all shaved. What if Isaac touches me? He'll think I lied," which he did. "And I'll get a curse instead." His mom said, "I'll take any curses on me. Just do what I said." So he did, and she did. Rebekah got Esau's best clothes that she had on hand, dressed Jacob in them. She put the fresh goat skin on Jacob's hands and neck, handed Jacob the great meal, including bread. Jacob went in and said, "Here I am." And Isaac's like, "Who is that?" He's like, "I'm Esau, your firstborn. I brought you the meal you asked for. Now eat and bless me." And Isaac's like, "That was fast." And Jacob's like, "Ahiah, your God, helped me." Or Yahweh. You guys know I like to call it call God Yahweh Ahiah these days. I'm thinking about switching back to Yahweh, but whatever. Isaac told Jacob, "Come here, I need to touch you to prove you're Esau." Jacob came close, and Isaac said, "You sound like Jacob, but you feel like Esau." So he's like, "All right, I'll bless you." So he said, "This is Esau." And he said, "Yes, it is. Let me have a bite of that meal." He brought it, he ate it, and drank. Isaac said, "All right, give your old man a smooch." So he gave him a kiss, and Jacob smelled like Esau smells, like the great outdoors, a field that Ahiah had blessed. "So may God give you heaven dew and earth fat and tons of grain and wine. Let the people serve you and the nations bow to you. Rule your brothers and let the sons of your mother bow to you. Let those who curse you be cursed and those who bless you be blessed." Right as he had done and Jacob left, Esau came in, and he said, a fresh made savory meal, and he said, "Get up, Dad, eat of the game and give me the soul blessing." Isaac's like, "Who is this?" And he's like, "It's Esau." And Isaac trembled tremblingly a ton, even more than a ton, and said, "Who hunted that other game and brought? And I ate before you came in, and I blessed him indeed, blessed he shall be." When Esau heard, he cried a great cry, exceedingly bitter, and said to Isaac, "Bless me too." He said, "Your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing." Esau said, "He's aptly named the Jacober, as he Jacobed me twice, once my birthright and now my blessing. Do you have anything left?" Isaac said, "Sure. I made him your master. All his brothers will follow him, and I sent him grain and wine. Let me see what I have for you." And Esau said, "What, only one for me?" And he wept. Isaac said, no, I got this wrong. Hang on. Let me look at 39. I think my translation is wrong. My roslation. This is interesting. Away from. See, but here the King James says it's not away. See, this is controversial. Everyone says away from the fat, except the King James. Away. American Standard puts him in. So King James and American Standard. Aramaic Plain and English Bible. Septuagint translation from Brenton. Dewey Reams. These are some good sources. English Revised. Let's look at Literal Standard. Yeah, so I think some of this is a little controversial. Let's go back to the actual Hebrew. Vaya'an Yishak Aviu Vayomer, he said, Elo, to him. Hine, behold. We've seen all these words. Mismane haaretz, earth fat. Yiye moasaveka. That's your dwelling. I don't know. I don't know. It literally is translated. It's controversial. You'll be a warrior and serve your brother, and when you grow impatient, you'll break free of him. Esau therefore hated Jacob because of the blessing Isaac gave him and said deep inside, after mourning my dad, I'll kill Jacob. Rebekah got wind somehow and told Jacob. She told Jacob, go lay low in Haran with Laban, my brother, for a few days. It turned out to be 21 years or so, till the heat passes. As long as it takes for Esau to calm down. I don't want to have terror because of you both in one day. She said to Isaac, oh, these daughters of Heth make me weary. If Jacob does that too, I'll hate my life. So let me read you our story so far, and then we'll start the panel. 46 minutes in, made pretty good time. This is a really long chapter. Water-based reset, law. No demon-human half-breeds, no murder, no blood drinking. Shemite Abraham moved to Philistine, had an Egyptian Ishmael who sired 12 princes, and Haranian Isaac who had Esau the Red, who married back into the Hamites. Isaac favored second-born Jacob, and right before death, Isaac gave a powerful blessing to Esau, only Jacob somehow snagged it, ran away to Haran until Esau would calm down, wanting to kill him. All right, that's our story so far. Let me start up a new Jitsi link. Start the meeting. All right. It's in the chat. I'll catch up with the chat here in a second. Let me get the... Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. All right. I'm going to save all my study points for the panel. I usually like to put the questions out before, but there's only like 6. Can you believe it? We made it through that long, long chapter. Let's catch up with the chat. So he did grab the heel on the way being born. Yeah, it does seem to remind you of Achilles, right? Bury fish under your seeds and the plant will be amazing, says the Texan. Don't skip the definitions. No, I didn't, Nova. I read them all. I just went them fast towards the second half. That was taking forever. Sorry, my man. Something like Achilles heel, vulnerable deception. Interesting, yes. Trojan horse, major deception. Yeah. Half-acre lot was amazing. Fish guts under the soil. And cow crap, and then you till. Hey!
What is up, man?
Whew, what a long chapter.
So, for some reason, my Bible was bookmarked to something earlier than that. Did I not participate with you last week?
Yeah, you did, but there was some... Maybe I skipped a chapter. Let's look at what 26 was. Here, let me share out my screen. I mean, the way my life's going, I might have skipped a chapter. Hang on. There's Jin. So, Jin 26. This one was Isaac settling in Gerar, and then the wells, and then Abimelech with Azusa and Phicol. It was like a complete repeat chapter. We didn't talk about it very much, if I remember right. She's my sister. I mean, I know you were there, But we also had mad echo, which, by the way, we're not having tonight. Duppy, did we do 26 last week?
Yeah, I think we did the whole lentil thing, right?
No, that'd be the week before.
Was it?
Or no, actually, no, the lentils was...
Because when I first opened up my Bible, because I leave it at the bookmark. You know how you got that string that's attached to your Bible?
Yeah.
And so when you first started reading, I was like, where is he at? And I had to flip a couple of pages.
Maybe lentils was last week? Hang on. What? Isaac's sons.
That could have been my mistake. I don't remember.
No, I remember we had more technical than anything last week. I am struggling to find the birthright thing, just glancing through.
You talking about when they were first born?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That would be 25:19 is where it starts to talk about Rebecca giving birth to Esau and Jacob.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, chapter 25, which I think was 2 weeks ago, Duppy.
What was last week then? I might have missed the first part of the show last week because of my phone call, my nightly phone call.
Yep.
I honestly don't remember last week.
It's where he says she's his sister, even though she's not even his half-sister.
In Egypt?
In Gerar.
Where's Gerar? Do they know where that is?
It's towards Egypt, but not all the way. Let's check it out.
I think last week, didn't we look up a town that was like just...
Oh, you
just
tied...
east of the Delta.
Okay, you tied in the topic you had, ended up tying in. If we can just remember how, then we'll know for sure what chapter it was. Do you remember?
Yeah, I've forgotten already.
That's all right.
Yeah, there was some little interesting spin.
Yeah. The wells.
I actually had to unplug for the whole week since last week.
Oh,
I haven't been online. I haven't been looking at any news articles. I did look something up today because I just happened to get on Facebook, which means I was using the bathroom, people.
Hey,
and
quick question.
Yeah.
How do you spell Gerar, G. Ross?
I've got it as Gerar.
Okay. Sorry, Yoda, go ahead.
Did you guys see that Florida passed a law that if a pedophile has sex with a child that's 12 or under, they get the death penalty?
Nice.
That's the shit right there.
That's awesome.
Every state should be like that.
We're going to have a lot of fertilizer. Texan won't need to use the fish.
The sad part is, look this up, G. Ross. I can't remember. I think in Mexico, the age of consent is 12. I just thought of that. I didn't think about that earlier.
Age of consent in Mexico. Ages of consent in North America. Let's see. It says 17 according to the quick search.
No. In Mexico.
It's 14 in Taxlaca.
Oh,
yeah. There's the federal consent age is 12.
Wow.
If I'm reading this right. But there's also some contradictions inside the code. So it actually, some is as low as 12. It's a whole bunch of deep dive.
Well, at least Florida is starting it the right way. You know.
Yeah.
Jeanette Booth has joined us. Sneezer's in the house. Nova, Just One.
Hey, G. Ross, I just remembered some of what we talked about last week.
Yeah.
It was Gerar, because we were trying to figure out where it was and whether you could call Abimelech a Philistine or not, since this presumably
Right.
happened long before the
Right.
civilization that we know as the Philistines.
That's right.
And
So what verse? What verse was talking about Gerar?
That was last week.
Last week, yeah.
25.
No, I'm talking about what verse compared to where we. Oh wait, I'm just having to look at it.
Yeah.
That was 26.
Right. Yeah, because you were asking kind of what last week was. It was mostly 26.
So,
and I went off about how Abimelech means son of the king.
Right. Right. Thank you for remembering that.
So where did you start tonight?
I did the entire chapter 27, front to back, marathon.
Well, yeah, that is okay. Then I just had my bookmarker messed up. Okay.
So as I'm reading that, it struck me, every now and then you'll see in the Bible light being reversed. And what I mean by that is your eyes are the source of light. And there's a little bit of it there because his eyes are described as dim. Now, that's kind of, yeah, go ahead.
Scientifically, light goes into the eye.
Yeah.
And then it's flipped. It's reversed.
Well, right. But you've seen them talk about from the photon's perspective, it's in the source and the sink at the same time. So the light goes both directions. Because it doesn't experience time.
But I'm wondering if try to pull up an image real quick, so the chat can see what I'm talking about. For those that don't know,
I think most people know about that, right?
You'd be surprised at what people do and don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, just look at the whole COVID response. I thought people were stupid, but I didn't know they were that stupid.
Here's an example. It doesn't really show it being upside down, though. Oh, yeah, here it does. Here's one. So the candle, let me share.
Because my point on this is the Bible does talk about a lot of science.
Yeah.
But you kind of got to know science to understand the reference.
Right.
Now, yeah, that's a good one. Blow that one up. Oh, excuse me. That's what I mean by reversed.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it could or could not have that meaning, but that's what popped in my head when you said reversed.
Well, he said his eyes were dim. To describe someone's eyes as dim is kind of...
You know what that is?
Quantum mechanics. Yeah.
No, that's cataracts.
I was just thinking.
Sure, but you're not going to describe... So technically, dim means your eyes don't shine as bright. We know what they mean. I'm just pointing out there's other places in the Bible and old mystical texts that your eyes are almost like your flashlights of perception, and they shine out of you and form your worldview.
I mean, because with cataracts, you can see the difference between light and dark.
Right. And even, the person that has cataracts is going to see a dimmed view of the world.
Yes, of course.
But also people looking at somebody with cataracts is going to see eyeballs that look dimmed.
Of course. Well, but see, that's where
ways.
I think it's a bit of a stretch there. I think the Bible is slightly hinting at some pretty esoteric stuff there.
Possible.
We don't
Where
use
does esoteric come into this?
The concept that your eyes illuminate the world is pretty esoteric and advanced.
Well, then you also have the why can't I think of the word? The reference of the eyes being the window to the soul.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, as far as, or like, you see the light in somebody's eyes because they're like a positive person or a happy person. All of that.
Yep.
But Isaac was definitely getting on in years, so he was in that territory.
Oh, of course. But okay, look, here's my simple point. If you were telling that story, you'd say he was having cloudy vision. He was struggling to see. It's very poetic to go, his eyes were dim. I don't think that's common vernacular. You're not going to talk that way normally. That's all I'm trying to highlight.
Well, if he lost his luster for life, which I don't think he did, he wouldn't have that brightness that I was talking about.
No, yeah, I agree. The spark.
But I would say, G. Ross, even like up to the Middle Ages or even later, that kind of language wouldn't seem that odd, I don't think.
Fair. That's fair. But we've been reading 27 chapters of dialogue and stuff, and it's not been that poetic. That's a burst of poetry that's come out, just judging from Genesis so far.
Well, I mean, there definitely are likely sort of occulted meanings in a lot of the language. We've discussed that before.
For sure.
I could even point you to an entire website devoted to that.
Sure. So I have another question about the chapter. There's maybe not a question, it's more just a commentary, but I'm curious if you all agree. Like, he comes in, he's digging it deep. He's like, I am for sure Esau. Like, he's blatantly lying. And then he's like, how'd you get the food so quick? And he's like, God gave it to me. I mean, you're getting lightning bolts at that point, right? Like, they're going to strike you down right then.
Hey, may I say something?
Yeah.
Kind of on that.
Yeah.
If I was Esau, I would have caned the shit out of him.
I knew that was coming.
I would have stoned the shit out of him and just walked away. You know what I mean? Because he probably already knew about the Cain and Abel story.
Especially since this was the second time he'd screwed him over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do they know about the first time? That could have been private. That was in a tent. I don't know if Rebecca and Isaac even know about the stealing of the birthright.
Yeah, but Esau knew.
But did he tell anyone?
Well, would it matter if Esau was the one with the cane?
You mean Isaac? So Isaac would cane Esau. Is what Yoda was saying.
No. Esau would have caned the shit out of Jacob.
Oh, he's after him. He's like waiting till.
That's what I was saying.
The text specifically says he's like, as soon as we're done with the funeral, I will kill you.
Now, yeah. I'm looking at it like this. They're not that many generations away from the whole Cain and Abel story.
Right.
So they got to know about it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that shows a lot of restraint on Esau's part.
That's a very good point. I had not thought about that.
I mean, because it tells you he wanted to. I mean, even in my Bible, the dark part of the text, it says Esau threatens to kill Jacob.
Yeah. Right.
So it was there. The feeling and the urge was there.
Yeah.
You know? Hey, what's up, Texan?
Hello, the Texan.
Hey, Pastor Ragu.
Hey, Haas.
How y'all doing, man?
Can I ask one other question real quick on that topic of what you just said? Because you're like, he would want to. Somebody just said something a minute ago. Why couldn't he just change the blessing? There's something like a hardcore ceremony and contract here. Like he's stuck. Nobody can change this. Like there was a big build up and a lead up, and he needed a full belly, and it was going to be a special kind of blessing. Like they signed a spiritual contract. You know what I'm saying?
Well, just like when you get married and God doesn't like adultery.
Yeah.
Now I can say this from experience. I have friends that have said this from experience. When you get with a chick that's married, whether or not you get caught or not, God sees it, and you will experience some of the worst luck for a long period of time. I know this as an actual fact. So back then, a promise is a promise. Just like a promise to God when you get married is a promise.
Right. That's a really good point. And yeah, like you said a minute ago, somebody said they're taking this I think you said, Yoda, they're taking this very seriously.
Yeah.
My very, very last discussion point, not saying that we're done with the chapter, if anybody else has any other discussion points, but let me just squeeze this in. Did you catch? It seems like a weird story ending. It's like this whole long story about the stolen blessing, and at the end, it's like this whole nother story. Yeah, I sure hope Esau doesn't marry those Hittite ladies, or that Jacob doesn't marry those Hittite ladies. And if you run over it, you might miss it. That's her cover story to Isaac on why Jacob left. It's not that super clear, but once you see it, I think it's pretty sure that she's explaining to Isaac why Jacob went to see Laban.
So does that mean?
Yeah.
So wait, did Isaac know that he had been fooled?
He did.
Or did he never find out?
No, he did. It says it in the chapter that he knew.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Why was Rebecca in such favor of Jacob?
It's a good question.
Did she just not like the Wookiee brother?
I think Jacob's a mama's boy. Like that's in the chapters.
I would have hit that bitch with a rock too.
Is there anything that suggests that Esau was kind of a simple, maybe not so intelligent person to where he could easily be deceived, and Jacob was very intelligent and devious? Intellectually, is there any hint that they were at an equal level or not, or anything like that?
I didn't notice anything like that.
No, and you're going to see that Esau does really well while they're separated. He's super rich when they meet up again. And he kind of is mature as well. But he's definitely impulsive at the younger age.
Well, not too impulsive because he didn't hit his ass with a rock.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. Well, maybe he learned his lesson. He gave his birthright away, and maybe that calmed him down in the future.
Well, then you got people. You got some people that are just built different, and they have that attitude. I want to do this on my own. I don't want no help.
Right. He has a dash of not being very religious, if that makes sense.
I would have to go back through it to
Well, and I might be assuming some stuff. Like, yeah. Only just when he disdained his birthright would be the only example. And that's not maybe a religious thing, but just I don't know. He seems rather materialistic. Let's just leave it at that, maybe. So, I don't know when to segue into this, but the Texan had a comment about something unrelated to this chapter, but I'll bet you we could tie it in. Do you want to start that up, the Texan, or?
Yeah, it was actually, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually pretty interesting. Of course, I've been known to stir up the pot a few times here and there.
Do it.
And just might have to stir it up tonight. So this death penalty thing and talking about Florida and wasn't that you, Black Yoda, that said that's a good thing, and everybody jumped on board saying the death penalty, yeah, great thing, right?
Man, it
Yeah.
tells you in the Bible to hang a millstone around their neck and drown their ass.
Sure it does, but
That's the death penalty.
and is that Old Testament or New Testament?
That's old.
Well, but
Okay.
Jesus says if anyone causes these little ones to stumble, it would be better that they had a millstone tied around their neck. Doesn't say to do it, but he does mention it.
He says it would be better.
Right.
Correct. He doesn't say to. He does not command people to do so.
Correct.
Well,
So,
better.
but wait a minute. And the 10 Commandments,
No murder.
murder. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, but
And
if you look up the definition of murder, I don't know if capital punishment really fits the definition of that.
okay, Duppy, I was waiting for that to come up. Man, go ahead and Google it and check it out. I've done it. Trust me, many times. Like, you know, in the state of Texas, we put more people to death in this state than we do any other state. I mean,
Don't y'all call it Old Sparky?
Well, no, we don't. We don't give them the electric chair anymore. But you know, it's the gas chamber. But anyway, with that said, the state of Texas puts to death more people every year and has for decades now than any other state. While other states, like, and to borrow from Ron White's comedy skit, in other states are trying to outlaw the death penalty. Well, in Texas, we put in a freaking tollway. You know, if more than 3 people saw you do what you did and they testified to it, then guess what? You don't sit at the back of the line, you go to the front of the line. But guess how many people have been, after they're dead, have been found through DNA evidence, prosecutors lying, judges rigging crap. How many people in Texas have been put to death that were freaking innocent individuals? I don't believe in the death penalty based on that fact. I mean, if you want to take it back to biblical times, let's take it back to Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was an innocent man, and it was government that put him to death.
Right.
Well, it was prophesied.
That's prophecy, yeah. But hey, brother, when Black Yoda, if it's your ass that got implicated, the prosecutor lied, covered up evidence, the sheriff lied, and they framed your ass.
Before.
I mean, dude, yeah, trust me, I guarantee you'll be seeing it different when your ass is sitting on death row.
I've thought about this before. I truly have. This isn't the first time I've thought about this, but I don't fear death. You want to send me to God? I mean, it's a sin to kill yourself. But if somebody else did it to me, what? I get to send.
Well, I'm glad you think that way, but I don't want you sitting on my jury if I'm an innocent guy and I'm fighting for my life, and you're like, "Hey, death doesn't bother me. Let's kill this son bitch."
No, you know what? If I was on a jury, I wouldn't be, easy to convince. You would have to. I'd be that one juror, against the other 11.
Right.
That would be like, nah, I didn't see enough evidence.
Well, I can tell you right now, man, I've done a show on this like over a year ago, and when I dove deep into this, and I've been on national radio talking about this, and man, it's just really crazy. I mean, come on, look, judges and prosecutors are in this game together, and so are the sheriffs, and these police forces and everything. They're in this together. They want, for political purposes only, they want one. If you're ever accused of a crime and you have to walk into a judge's court who has a 100% conviction ratio, which he keeps getting elected on,
right?
You think it might be stacked against your ass?
Well, let's put it like this.
It's all political. They want to do it to keep getting elected, to get reelected.
Well, let's make this point with the pedophiles and shit. You're more likely to have DNA evidence with a pedophile raping a child than you will, versus a murder. So, they got DNA evidence.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Let's take that for just a second, can we? And let's talk about the founding fathers and how they set the court system up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most horrific things you can do. I am a Christian. G. Ross, you know that. Everybody that knows me knows that. Okay.
Right.
And I'm a hardcore Texan. I'm a conservative. Now, look, when it comes to taking someone's life, if you're breaking into my home at the point of contact, the POC, the point of contact, and it's either me or you, guess what? I'm going to do every damn thing I can to make sure it's you, to protect my family and myself. That is totally different. That is self-defense. But when you go through a government system that is rigged against the people for political gain, that's when things get really jacked up. That's why the founding fathers even said, if you don't believe me, go freaking Google it yourself and do your own research. They would rather let a guilty man go free lest they incarcerate an innocent man. That has been lost. That is all political bullshit now.
And you're inspiring me to kind of switch over to,
No, man. No, don't give in to that shit.
No. But listen to what we're about to face down. If we have our way, like the Foxhole chat's been wanting for 3-4 years, however long Foxhole's been a thing, 2-3 years, and all the other alt medias, we're about to have hellfire down on the pedophiles. Are they going to falsely accuse anybody and trump up any evidence and sweep any political enemies into that movement?
That's a good point.
You answer your own question there, G. Ross. Are they?
They did it in 9/11 with the Patriot
Act. Thank you very much. Yes, they will.
Right.
Well, isn't the language we're talking about in the Bible, doesn't anybody else get a sense that it assumes a proper justice, I don't even know what the word is for it, but
ethical.
It's kind of, it's almost like what we're talking about is the difference between proper justice and a corrupt attempt at justice.
It's assuming that people are ethical and are going to do right.
Yeah.
By any system.
Okay, and please understand, I'm not taking the side of the pedophile. I'll tell you right now.
I understand your point.
If when my daughter was young, or my stepdaughter, I should say, and I was in her life, if anybody, and I already proved that shit, I proved it 2 different times with a 9mm, that you don't come around here jacking with that. Okay, I will take your damn life in a heartbeat.
You know what? I'm glad.
Wait a minute, Black Yoda. There were instances 2 different times that happened that I had to defend my 8-year-old daughter from a dude kidnapping her. All right, same dude, which eventually, a half a mile down the road out in the country, got picked up, and he's sitting in freaking Kaufman County prison, or jail was back then. Now he's in state prison. Okay, that's totally different. Okay, let's take Trump for example.
Wait, before you do that, I have a question. All right, say in Florida, with this new law, if you were to catch somebody in the act of doing it, I would think it would make it more passable for you to kill that person with your bare hands.
I just said earlier, point of contact, at the point of contact.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But not for a man or a woman's life to be left to a system that is totally political for political gain and doesn't give a crap about your life, my life, no more than they give the crap about the child's life. That is totally different. That's exactly the point I was making just now. Man, I damn near killed the same guy twice within a month for walking into my yard and trying to do something that he shouldn't be doing. Okay, and then I'll be damned if not a few months later he gets caught down the road doing that exact same thing that I was pretty sure he was going to do. Now he's sitting in a prison in the state of Texas. Now let's take Donald Trump for instance. Okay, so
so he got caught doing it to like somebody else's kid?
Yes. he was a drunk, drug addict, an alcoholic, and he got caught in broad daylight, bombed out of his mind, doing something right there in the front, lost his mind, busted stone cold. Anyway, so but let's take Donald Trump for example. Okay, Donald Trump wants to give the death penalty to drug dealers. He didn't clarify. He just said all drug dealers. So where do you stand on that? I want to know where everybody in the chat stand on that, and everybody on this panel stands on that. Every drug dealer deserves the death penalty.
You know what? Hold on, let me turn this fan off real quick. I forgot what button it is. Me personally, if you want to do drugs and fuck your life up, more power to you. That's how I look at it.
But that affects a society.
It's still your choice, you know?
Well, yeah, it's your choice. But okay, so Black Yoda, that's your point. I mean, come on. Does every drug dealer deserve the death penalty?
Well, look at these pharmaceutical companies and what they did with COVID.
Black Yoda, that okay, now you're talking about corporate greed and corporate evil and all that. I'm asking everybody else. Nobody else has chimed in yet.
It's still a drug company. And that was definitely evil what they did. You know what I mean?
The biggest drug pushers are our government. So, and our government wants to put you to death, you know, according to Donald J. Trump, for being a drug dealer, but they're the biggest drug dealers in the freaking world. Look, man, guys, look, I am Trump like nobody's business. Okay. And I know I'm controversial as hell, but I mean, this is a reality. You got to think for yourself, man. You got to be an individual.
Well, I mean,
right? Or are you just going to jump down, you know, the toilet bowl with all the bullshit that everybody else is bringing you down with?
A lot of the business taking place in Afghanistan was to protect those poppy fields. So, no, you're right. Our government is the biggest drug pushers, whether it be illegal drugs or pharmaceuticals.
The cartels in Mexico with the human trafficking, the child sex trafficking. Yep. I've covered story after story after story on that. I got down to the nuts and bolts, and G. Ross was there that night watching the thing I did about the Kinsey report and how our government was in on that. So where do I stand on this? I stand on the Judeo-Christian values that this country was founded on by the founding fathers. Okay. I don't believe in the death penalty because it is all by political gain, especially in the state that a native Texan, born and raised in, live here today. I don't believe in that bullshit because, like I said, if you go and check it out yourself, you'll find out how many innocent men were put to death. 30 freaking years, 35 years they sat on death row. People are like, well, it shouldn't take that long. It should only take like 3 weeks. Yeah, well, whatever, unless it's your ass sitting there on death row, okay? And then they hide, and they've been found hiding evidence, denying evidence, these kangaroo courts and stuff. Texas is very famous for that, okay? So when it's your butt on the line, you tell me. Now rethink what you're saying.
Now, when it comes to drugs, I don't think that deserves a death penalty. But I think your ass should go to prison for certain drugs and bust big rocks into little rocks all day long.
Here's another thing.
Certainly something like fentanyl can almost always be considered attempted murder, right?
Well, here's another thing. And if you don't believe me, like I said, I've done shows on this before, and I had the receipts. I proved it, that it costs less in the state of Texas to keep a man imprisoned for the rest of his life, whether he's 18 years old.
Well, that's because of all the appeal process and stuff for death penalty cases,
no,
right?
it's way more than that. It's the cost of keeping someone on death row. Okay, yeah. Down in Huntsville, Texas, brother, you need to check it out. It costs way more to put someone to death than it does to keep someone incarcerated in the state of Texas for the rest of their life.
I believe that, but it's because of the legal system as it exists in its highly imperfect state. So the
wait,
moral
wait.
argument's a little bit different if you consider the possibility of a perfect justice system.
Wait, if somebody is on death row for 25 years versus somebody in for 5, that math doesn't add up.
I'm telling you right now, what it costs to keep a man on death row. Okay, through the appeals process and all that, Duppy, you're right. But guess what? The founding fathers, they fought for that. Like I said, their thing was, we would rather see a guilty man go free than an innocent man be incarcerated. As a matter of fact, what guy was that? I can't freaking pull his name out of my head right now.
Everett Home?
No, one of the founding fathers that defended 2 British soldiers and won the case because they were about to be hung within 48 hours. Was it John Adams? Anyway, it was one of the big names. And like I said, I've done stories on this. And so, I mean, where are we at today with this? Oh, is this mob mentality? Is that what we're at right now? Whether he did it or not, he's accused of it. I mean, you got to stop and think, man. You got to step back and think. Is this really where we're at for political gain?
I mean, you could make the same argument for any crime. Not
Yeah,
just
exactly. With an imperfect justice system, you'll never be 100% sure that the person's really guilty or not. Therefore, you have no justice system.
And I honestly mean what I just said. You can make the same argument with the death penalty for any crime.
Yeah, stolen pack of gum, right?
Yeah.
Everett Home was chiming in on that. He was saying better 10 set free than 1 punished.
Yeah. Okay, Pete Aggie, I sort of think we have appropriate laws for prosecuting big dealers, but they aren't being prosecuted. Exactly, Pete Aggie. See, now you're trying to trust somebody else's life, not your own. You're just sitting back armchair quarterbacking and saying, you're trusting the system to somebody else's life unless it's your butt on the line. But come on, man. I've got some stuff lined up I can do, and I will prove to you down in Houston, Texas. Okay. A Democrat-run city that lets drug dealers, murderers, rapists out, not even on a bond, no bail. They let them out the next day. And then within, 3 days to 3 weeks, they've already killed somebody else. And they've been released 14, 15, 16, 17 times. Okay, that is a travesty of justice right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's all your blue cities that are doing that shit.
I know. So are you really going to trust the system one way or another? That's my total overall question.
Right. So that government that governs the least is the best.
No.
That's a founding concept.
I don't believe in big government at all.
Right.
But in regards to this conversation in the justice system, I'm more upset that people that we know are guilty aren't even getting prosecuted. Politicians especially.
Right. So now let's not hand a giant. I think the concept I'm really resonating with, and we kind of said it a few times, but let's not just hand a super sharp knife. Let's say Trump gets in. Let's not go too haywire. As we get so excited to see guillotine after guillotine slaughtering these pedophiles, let's just make sure we're tapping the brakes every now and then and making sure we're doing it right. Right? Is that reasonable?
I kind of agree and disagree with you on that because, look, if an innocent man has been found guilty, okay, and evidence was hidden in all this, just say, okay, sometimes it's very freaking obvious, but not all the time. Majority of the time, it's really not. It's a gray area.
Mm-hmm.
And at least that man, if he or woman is put in prison for the rest of their life, there's at least the chance that they may be, if they ever were, proven innocent. But once you kill that person,
Right. It's irreversible.
it's done. Yeah,
Actually,
I mean,
you know
so
what?
so who's the biggest serial killer here? The
But
state of
you
Texas or
could-
the serial killer?
You could
Wait, let
make
me-
the argument that no matter how strong a case the prosecutor presents, that you'll never know with 100% certainty that that person was guilty. So if you act on that minuscule chance that they might be innocent, nobody ever gets justice.
But see, that's the deal. When you go to court, and I've been there, okay, I was looking at 20 years for a crime I did not commit. All right. So I can get into that later on my show, not G. Ross's show. But I could tell you this. When that jury comes back and says not guilty, that does not mean you're innocent. They're just saying at this point in time, they're not guilty. By law, that's all they're saying.
But also by law, they don't get to be retried on the same charge.
Right.
It's double jeopardy.
No, that's a lie. That's a lie.
I don't lie. Maybe
No,
I
okay.
maybe I
I'm sorry. There you go.
misinterpreted it, but I'm not lying.
Bad words there that I chose. You're right, Duffy. So you can be retried. How many times have we seen people,
Trump is
high
being
profile
retried.
cases, retried until they find them
Yeah,
guilty?
but don't they have to have different charges to be able to do that? Otherwise,
No, you're
it's
talking
double
about
jeopardy.
you're talking about double jeopardy, and you're talking about being convicted of a crime. Now, if you've been convicted of a crime, okay, and you serve your time and you get out, you cannot be reconvicted of that crime. That's exactly what I'm saying. Now, if you're found not guilty, there's no case law, there's no nothing that says you're innocent of that crime. They can find new evidence 20 years later through DNA or something that didn't exist back then, and then they can come back and nab you, get you, and bring you back in there again. The double jeopardy standard is not what a lot of people think it is.
Wouldn't that be a prosecutorial appeal rather than a separate case?
No, it's the same case. It's just that they found new evidence, and they could charge you with the same charge and bring you back 10 years later, 10 weeks later, 25 years later.
I don't see nothing
years later.
I don't see nothing wrong with that.
Well,
I don't either. I'm just trying to understand how the double jeopardy works in cases like this.
Well, real quick, let me switch it up just a little bit. So we got this child trafficking and shit like that. And one of my friends brought up a good point. They want to microchip everybody.
Oof.
And one of the excuses to microchip these kids is to be able to monitor the trafficking. I had never thought about it like that, but that would be an excuse for that whole mark of the beast system.
Yeah, that's a Overton window adjustment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're talking about,
and they already did that with your pets.
Exactly.
Right. So you're talking about microchipping children for their own safety, right?
That's going to be the excuse to slip that shit in.
Okay, so you brought that up, and what did Jefferson say about that shit?
Thomas Jefferson?
No, George Jefferson. Of course, Thomas Jefferson, dude.
Why would he even bring up microchipping people?
Those that would give up.
Shall
I continue?
No, I get your point now.
Those that would give up, an ounce of freedom for a pound of security deserve neither freedom nor security.
Wait, wasn't that Franklin that said that?
Or was it Franklin? I don't know.
It was one of them, yeah.
Can you Google that real quick? G-Ross?
Okay, whatever, is the quote right or is the quote wrong?
No, I'm just curious as to who said it. No, but it is right.
So you're going to give up your child's safety, your child's security, your child's will not give up safety. You're gonna accept the government microchip my kid so they're safer, but yet they have no privacy. They have no, the whole gamut all the way around of growing up and being a productive adult without the government, tracking them. Dude,
I wouldn't.
Honestly, you just answered your own question, right?
No, I was stunned at the fact that I never saw it like that. But he brought up a good point.
Look, freedom is a scary freaking thing.
Yes.
Freedom is not for everybody. Okay. Freedom is not for the faint of heart. But that's what this country was founded on. And we have given up so much freedom for the blanket of security. 9/11 being one of the biggest freaking jokes that I've ever seen in my entire life, with the Patriot Act. We willingly give it, not me, but the majority gives it up.
Yes.
In one of my old neighborhoods, a lot of us that walked our dogs, we would bump into each other. And there was 3 of us, right? A guy and a girl and myself. And the 2 other people were elderly. And the lady said that she had went overseas somewhere, and all the police are walking around with these big ass guns, but none of the citizens could have guns.
It's called a police state.
Yep.
And she said that she never felt safer. And me and the guy just looked at each other stunned. And the first thing I said to her, and I was like, well, you look at it as them protecting you, but what happens when they want to turn against you?
Uh-huh.
And she was like, that's not how I felt. I just felt safe. Completely liberal.
Right.
Or completely left, right?
Yeah, and feelings always override freedom. Somebody else's feelings.
Now, I like my freedom. I ain't giving the government shit.
Hang on, if you don't mind, Juras, let me.
Yeah.
Napster said the Texan, if a pedophile or murderer is caught in the act and or video, is the death penalty valid to them? Napster, I just explained, at the point of contact, if I catch someone doing something physically to one of my children or my loved ones, you're a dead SOB. And the court system ain't got to worry about you. But if it's caught on video, okay, and I'm going to hunt your ass, I can promise you that.
Dude,
but wait a minute.
Can you make that argument in the age of AI?
But wait a minute. If the cops get to you before I do, then you got a savior right there is all I got to say. No, I don't believe in the death penalty except for the point of contact.
Dude, if I was like when my son was younger and if I caught somebody doing some shit like that, I'm not calling the police. I'm going full medieval.
I'll call the police for a cleanup crew.
Right.
Honestly,
yeah.
G. Ross has met me. I mean,
yeah.
I remember one time me and my son were talking, and this is one of the times that he had came over here where I currently live. So it had to be within the last 3 years. So anytime between 20 and 22. He's 23 now, but he hasn't came in the last year. I forget how the conversation started, but it was about whether, to what extent would I have his back. And I was like, dude, if you called me in the middle of the night talking about you killed somebody, I'll help you hide the body, but I'm going to cuss your ass out the whole time that we're doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let me bring it back to a biblical perspective, if you don't mind. So, like I said, our founding fathers, our laws are based on Judeo-Christian values.
Yes.
Now, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, okay, is not a life for a life. That's not what it means. but it
The problem
sets.
with what you just said,
Wait
though,
a minute
is
and let me finish, Black
wait, hold
Yoda.
on, this is important though. It's based on Judeo-Christian values. The biggest problem with that is you have a lot of people that don't believe in God. They
Okay,
don't.
well, that's their problem. I'm telling you what the founding fathers laid out for us and how our judicial system still to this day responds to that. Now, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That sets the standard. If I take your eye, you can't take my life. At the maximum, you can take my eye. If I take your tooth, you cannot take my life or my livelihood, but you could take my. It sets the basic standard for law. That's Judeo-Christian value law that we still reside under today. Okay.
Well, now you done contradicted yourself.
No, okay. Tell me how.
You said if you caught somebody molesting your child, you would kill him.
Sure. At the
But
point of contact.
according to eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, at the most you could do is molest the one that was molesting your kid.
So do you think really with what you just said, and I love you, brother, but that was pretty ignorant what you said. I'm sorry.
No. Eye for an eye, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
So if I walk into my daughter's bedroom in 9, 10, 11, whatever age, or if I walk into my house, whatever, and that's happening in front of me, how do I know he wants to stop at raping her? I don't. Right. All I know is that I have a right to defend myself and my loved ones. I don't know what is he going to rape her, wrap his thingy up and go away, or is he going to kill her after raping her? So
now you're talking
your
about
argument doesn't hold water. I don't know what he's going to do. I just
now
know
you're
he's
talking
harming
about
my family.
Yeah, but
now you're talking about intent on eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
No, but self-defense is okay. Is I think
absolutely. Self-defense is all in the Bible.
I'm not calling you a hypocrite. I'm just pointing it out.
Well, I just answered your question as you called me a hypocrite. So
no,
there you go.
You know I love you, damn it. But all I'm saying is that's what popped in my head. If you can only go eye for an eye, then at what extent?
Right, but if you come on a scene and your friend or loved one is being actively assaulted, you have no idea where that's going to end.
I know. I was just pointing it out.
Exactly. You don't know if after they get done with their sexual act, are they going to take a knife and plunge it into their chest? You don't know. You just know that, and it is biblical that you have a right to defend yourself and your life, your life and your family.
I mean, because I already told you, I'm going medieval, even if it's not my kid, and I see some shit like that. I'm not
arguing a bit about that. Okay. Right. I'm not arguing a bit about that. What I'm talking about is leaving it up to a political system that they don't give a shit about the kid being raped. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a rat's rear end. I'm trying not to cuss, but they don't care. It's all about them getting reelected by how many convictions they get. And if you can't understand that, Black Yoda, you need to, man, just sit back and absorb what I'm trying to tell you, brother. Don't leave it to the political system.
Most people don't even know what the conviction rate of a prosecutor is.
Yeah, exactly. I do. Where I live, I found that out the freaking hard way when I was facing 20 years for a crime I didn't commit. I beat a freaking judge that had a 99.5%. Oh, I don't know what that other 5% conviction was, but a 99.5% conviction ratio in Smith County, Texas, in Lindell, Texas, to be exact, just north of Tyler, facing 20 years for a crime I didn't commit. And you know what? I decided I'm taking it to a jury, and even my lawyer wanted to cut a deal and put me on probation and all this stuff. And I'm like, hell, man, no. And I fought the hell out of it, and I won. Only by the grace of God did I beat that system, though.
Well, I see a big disconnect in this whole discussion in terms of how to look at something in a corrupt justice system versus a just justice system. If there's no such thing as a just justice system, then you've got a really big problem.
But break on the side of freedom is, I think, what the opening thesis was, using founding fathers vernacular. Move cautiously before you. It's hard to convict people in a truly American style, the way it was supposed to be, legal system. It's hard.
Well, let me ask this.
I mean, the original premise that we started the discussion on was not assuming that the justice system was corrupt, but then it evolved into a corrupt justice system.
Well, I think the opening statement
total
was
apples and oranges conversation, really.
When they politicized it.
Yeah, well, regardless of how it got there.
Okay, let's talk about Kamala Harris just for a minute. How about that? That is a perfect freaking example.
Will you shut up?
Don't bring her up.
What did Kamala Harris do out in California?
She arrested all kinds of drug dealers.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a perfect example. Kamala Harris had a 99 to 100% conviction ratio when she was the Attorney General of the state of California. She ran on that. She won on that. And she convicted so many innocent black men that it was just totally freaking insane that were found later. And she's your vice president. There you go.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. But at the same time, how would you have a better system than what we have?
Let's go back to, let's see, the founding fathers. Let's go back to that. Okay, the founding fathers even said, oh, God, man, I got to start preparing more for this if I'm going to. This just hit me on a whim. I mean, I know what I'm talking about, but I got to find my receipts. So, what was it, Franklin or Jefferson that walked out of that
a republic convention, if you can keep it,
and was asked, yeah, go ahead, G-Ross, say it.
What have you given us? A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it.
Mm-hmm.
A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it. And we haven't kept it. We have not kept the republic. We've given it over to tyranny.
I don't think you're going to get an argument from anybody on that statement.
We've given it over to, it's a threat to our democracy.
Right.
That line of bullshit.
This is not a democracy.
No, I know. Trust me, I know.
So yeah, exactly.
But it's getting a little mobtacular. Like I'm real sensitive to, I think we all are, but I've been watching just to make sure we don't turn into whatever you'd call it, like a libertarian right-wing backlash mob that just really creates undesired effects emotionally.
No, because there's more of us taking this shit over. There's more of us that are more outspoken and fed up. Just look at these parents going to these school meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what happened to Bud Light. People are fed up with this shit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, man, I'll tell you what. Now you're really getting Irish up in me. I was going to save this for the Friday night show, but and I'm still gonna. But I'm going to let the cat out of the bag a little bit.
Okay.
So this cancel culture crap, there's a way to capitalize on that. And people have been doing it, capitalizing on it, like the recent Jason Aldean thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I'll get into that on Friday night.
Is that the song one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wherever. I mean, oh, my God.
Don't try this in a small town or something like that.
Yeah. What a freaking joke this is. This is nothing. This dude's gonna sell more records.
But that's from Aldean. That's what he does.
But no, it even goes beyond that. You're talking about Bud Light and everything. G. Ross, I remember when Bud Light first got the hit, right? And I was like, and I came on and we were talking. What has this been, 2 months ago or something?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, they're actually not gonna lose money off this. And I've been watching Bud Light stock. They ain't lost anything in stock. Okay.
Right.
They really have not. and that goes to this World Economic Forum.
No, they've been losing because they had to close down a distribution center.
Go check out their stock, Black Yoda. They're easy to find on the NASDAQ.
I do know that a lot of people have lost jobs because of it.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a blue collar worker though.
Yeah, I mean the guys at the top, they don't give a shit.
So, but with this cancel culture crap, some do lose, but the majority do not, and they've learned how to flip it into their favor. Okay.
Right.
Garth Brooks, what's just happened with Garth Brooks saying that he's going to sell Bud Light no matter what? I mean, it creates a whole new avenue of sales. It does. It's called marketing. It's called getting your name out there. Even Trump will tell you this. There ain't no such thing as bad publicity. Any publicity is good publicity.
Nah, but the whole Bud Light thing, you know, people are tired of them, the left shoving certain things down conservatives' throats. And we're just getting sick, just like that CRT crap that they were trying to push in the schools.
Okay,
people are getting tired of the wrong shit being taught to our kids.
Look at this right here. Look what G. Ross pulled up.
I'm so glad he brought up Jason Aldean.
Okay.
Now, do you think I'm lying about the stocks and about the business aspect of it? Yeah, it's going to bottom out, and then it's going to because everybody's talking about it. And when it comes to music, music is different than beer, of course, but artists sell beer. That's what they do. They start out their careers selling beer, you know, in these bars by playing their songs and promoting the beers and stuff. All this crap is tied in together. I'm telling you right now.
About that song, the person that wrote that article was just completely ignorant about Tracy Chapman. Just flat out.
What's Tracy Chapman got to do with Jason Aldean?
Wasn't the song a remix of Tracy Chapman's song?
No.
Which one?
We must be talking about two different situations.
He recently did a song about "Don't try that stuff in a small town." Let me see if I can find it.
Did he sample?
Oh, I'm talking about. No, I'm talking about a different song, people.
Yeah, this one just came out.
Is that the song that you played for me earlier?
Yes.
Yeah, dude. Black Yoda. When it came out, I did it that night. It had only been out 2 hours, and it was like a week ago. I put that song up and I played it on my channel. And it only been out like 2 hours, 3 hours at max, and it was climbing to the top of the charts, and quickly, and then all of a sudden this controversy it plateaued. Okay, it wasn't getting what the producers and stuff wanted, so they had to create this controversy for everybody to stop and take a look at it. Now, everybody and their mother is talking about Jason Aldean, and they're, at least they're talking about it. And guess what? When they do, what do? Well, I got to go check this song out. So then they go over to iTunes, they go over to YouTube, and then they hit it. And then guess what? The numbers go up and up and up and up and up.
Dude, even Black Yoda knows about that country music song.
See,
no. Bernie, my roommate, she played it for me just earlier today.
Nobody listens to AM FM radio like they used to. So now there's a new market out there, and it's called the internet. It's called iTunes. It's called all these other things, and YouTube. And this song just came out a little over a week ago. I think 7 days ago now, maybe 6 days. And then all of a sudden it wasn't performing like they wanted it to. So they had to create this controversy. Now everybody, their mother, their grandmother is going and checking it, and they're watching these reaction videos on YouTube, and now they're going and checking the song out, and the numbers are freaking skyrocketing. It's all a ploy. It's BS.
I agree.
Yep.
Why is your phone so slow?
I don't know.
So, Duppy, did we?
I will lock you outside.
Duppy, I don't think we cleaned up your point. But I also think the conversation started with, so since Black Yoda mentioned the the news about the death penalty in Florida. Texan came on to bring up the concept of the death penalty being aggressive, irreversible, a sharp tool in the hands of corrupt systems. I think that was in the opening sort of salvo. So I don't know. I don't know if it got as messy as you were saying. But what do we need to clean up?
I think it got messy because the original discussion, as I saw it at least, was in a just justice system, can you justify a death penalty?
Did it come up?
That's an interesting question. I just never really heard that at the top.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to argue with Texan's point if you assume a corrupt justice system.
So you're helping the moral question itself to reemerge. I get it now. I heard you say
that's where I thought it started.
Well, and I do kind of want to poke in there now that you mentioned that. There's room for a valid state, biblically speaking only. There's room for a valid state government to technically have capital punishment. But God himself doesn't always enforce it. Like, for example, David, who has Uriah killed in battle, he doesn't demand David's life.
There is no room for error when an elected government in the United States, from judges to sheriffs or whatever, prosecutors and everything, there is no room for error morally for them to take an innocent man's life.
Hey, real quick, that Jason Aldean song, I went on YouTube just now from Bernie's link, my roommate.
I'm sorry I jumped off on that, but on that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Just from 5 days ago, this one link has 3.8 million views.
Yeah.
That's just from 5 days ago.
Yeah.
Is it a good song? I don't remember hearing it.
It's actually pretty damn good. Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good, bro. It's good.
But going back to what we were originally talking about, and thank you, G. Ross and Duppy, for drawing me back on that. I'm like, I see something shiny and I look at it and I go after it. You know what I'm saying?
You're a crow.
But no, I mean, honestly, you got to step back and think about the moral aspect of it. And I mean, either you believe in this Constitution and you believe in these founding fathers and what their intent was, or you don't. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I don't have any reason to debate that. It's a question of one thing: if you have a just justice system, can you strictly adhere to morals? If your justice system is corrupt, or even have a suggestion that it's corrupt, now the whole thing's changed.
Why do you have paper plates in this bag?
One thing I want to be a little mindful of is Duppy pointed out in the chat that when we want to save a little time for deceit, which was built in chapter 27, which is not exactly what we've been talking about, but I want to make sure we squeeze that in before end of the night.
Did you say deceit?
Yeah, because it's in chapter 27 because he's deceiving Isaac. So it's not really about death penalty, but that's something that I didn't realize we didn't cover enough on chapter 27.
Well, and my point was more directed at there being more instances of that. Some we've gone over, some are coming later. Yeah. The lentil soup is an example. Somebody brought up in the chat the Abimelech situation, which I'm not that familiar with because I didn't get to watch that show.
Yeah,
I would like.
But also Joseph later and his land grab deal.
Right.
So it seems to me that it's a pervasive. I don't know if I want to say theme, but it's a pretty pervasive pattern in the narrative, and I get a sense that it's not always looked down upon. And I'm curious as to how people interpret that.
I would just like to add this before you.
Yeah, I'm
Very
not
nice.
trying to close down the death penalty topic. I just want to make sure we keep a little shoehorn in for that.
Sure.
I'm kind of curious. Where does the chat stand
Earlier,
on the
when,
death penalty? Like, could we do a poll in the chat? I'm curious as to
Just
what they
one
think. Are they
for one for
Yeah,
pro
one-
death penalty, two for
the pedophiles.
just okay.
no, not for the pedophiles. That is a shitty way to say that, dude.
No. That's the start of the conversation. Florida, death penalty for the pedophiles. That's what started the whole topic.
That is a horrible thing that you just said, Black Yoda, and that's probably that is really what's wrong with today's society and the way they think. And I was trying to say, wait a minute, I was trying to say John Adams. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
As a young lawyer, the future president served as counsel for the defense in the trial of 8 British soldiers accused of murdering during a riot in Boston on March 5th of 1770. 1770, John Adams, the future president of the United States, defended 2 British soldiers. Okay, they were ready to hang them. All right, and he defended them and proved them to not be guilty. I didn't say innocent. And for you to say that, Black Yoda, that really just ripped me. One for the pedophiles or whatever the hell you just
because
said, Jack.
it bakes in, and I think I see your point, the Texan. Let me try. It kind of bakes in the assumption of guilt.
Well, we've already had this long conversation about
the
whole situation. So maybe I didn't word that properly.
I would say you did not.
I'll accept that. But I would like to know, how does the chat feel about that Florida law? Plain and simple.
All right, so pro Florida law 1. Some reservations 2. How's that for a chat? I don't do that a lot, so I'm not a pro at that.
No, I appreciate Black Yoda bringing to the table and saying, "Hey, guys out there in the chat, what do you think? Should pedophiles die by the hands of the government, or should they not? Death penalty, yes or no?
Yeah,
simple as that.
One for yes
Don't say pro fucking pedophile, dude. I'm sorry, I just dropped the F-bomb.
It's okay.
That made me mad. Anyway, I'm sorry.
I'm waiting. Oh, you're good.
I'm sorry, but I'm not.
Well, don't forget what happened a little while ago, Texan. You kind of implied that I was lying. It was a poor choice of words. So
Hey.
I'm not bent. I'm not bent about it. And likewise, you probably shouldn't either.
Yes, sir. And I caught myself, and I apologize for it too.
The chat is voting for chapter 27.
So 2 would be death penalty.
2 has reservations. 2, I think, is not jumping in wholesale into Florida did only great stuff. If I stated it right earlier. So far we're more 2s than 1s. 3. We got a 3.
I saw that. Everything.
1 means chop their head off, and 2 means put them on death row.
I'm in the same boat
Roughly.
as Sneezer. If to me, your opinion on this changes completely if you don't have faith in the justice system, or it can change completely.
Right.
I obviously don't have faith in the justice system. I mean, that's very obvious. But at the same time, while every event in your life, whether it's positive or negative, okay, affects the rest of your life, especially as a child, okay, your life still continues. And I think that's what, and I'm saying that because that's what the founding fathers were getting to. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, Judeo. Like I said, it set a standard. Because I took your tooth and I changed your life, I cannot take your life.
Well, Texas,
every event has an effect, whether positive or negative, on your life. I'm just looking at it the way that I believe the founding fathers meant it to be.
Texan, let me ask you a very fair question, and I want you to be honest. Had you never experienced that situation where you almost went to prison for 20 years? Had you never experienced that, would you still have the same opinion?
I believe I would. Yes.
Okay.
After all the research I've done and everything I know, and I can't, man, I don't have my stuff with me right now, but there is a group out there that has here in the state of Texas that has been uh, challenging these death penalties, and they've freed some men that were actually not guilty. And then there were some in the research that they did that they already put to death that the state just went, oops, sorry. You were right. We were wrong. In all that research I've done, that I have, man, I'm going to have to do this again. I'm going to have to. And you're going to have to watch it.
I got a little analogy to add to this, and it comes from my oil drilling days. We used to, before you go spend $10 million to drill a well, the target is 2 miles below you, and you only have a certain amount of data to make as educated a guess as you can as to whether it's worth doing or not, from an economic standpoint. We had a process that's still widespread in the industry and probably in other industries too, called risking. And basically, you look at all the parameters you dealing with, rate them on how certain you are of that particular parameter, and then you kind of cobble those all together and you come up with a number that gives you an overall risk level for that effort to drill a well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like where you're going with this.
But
So
go ahead.
So one of the things that was fought over many, many times in these meetings where everybody puts their heads together to render an opinion on what those numbers should be based on the data that you have. And if there's a parameter that with absolute certainty, essentially because God told you that, you would give it a 1. But the difficulty in that is that no one can ever know anything with absolute mathematical perfection like that. So you were verboten from ranking anything a 1 in the risking process, because there's always a little way you can spin it that's going to throw a little bit of uncertainty on it. So giving something a probability of 100% or 1 was very frowned upon. You could not do it. And spent many hours arguing over that. And I think that applies to any justice system. You're never going to know with absolute mathematical precision of absolute certainty.
Well, if you're caught in the act,
any single case.
If you're caught in the act,
that's a little different case. I'm talking about having to, settle something through the courts. You can't know anything with absolute certainty. Does that imply that there's no such thing as justice?
I get what you're saying, but you know what? You're talking about human behavior versus a drilling a well.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying that there's always going to be a measure of doubt. It might be very, very small, but it's always going to be there no matter what you do.
Well, you know what? I have been on. Okay, this is what's freaking funny. Now, when I got called up for jury duty for some crazy reason, they picked me, and this was just last year. After that case I was telling you about, that was over 15 years ago. And they asked the question, the 2 lawyers asked the question, have you ever been on a jury before? I raised my hand. And They said, okay, yes, sir. I said, I've never been on a jury before, but I've been before a jury. And everybody cracked up laughing. The judge laughed. And I'm like, no, man. I mean, I've been before a jury, you know? And they said, well, you don't have to indulge the information on it, but you can if you want to. And I did. Guess what?
They wanted you.
They picked my butt. I thought it was going to get me out of it.
Yeah.
But they picked my butt.
The defense really probably wanted you, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. For some reason, they both wanted me.
Wow.
And it was over a car accident is what it was. And it was traffic. And then, of course, they asked me, what do you do for a living? And well, I'm a truck driver. How many years? 32-year truck driver. And so one side was like, oh, yeah, we want this. He's almost like an expert. And then the other were like, oh, my God, he's been before a jury. I thought I was getting my butt out of this, but I just got sucked right into it. I became the foreman of the jury that day.
Oh, nice.
That's a true dang story, man.
Yeah.
It might have been your 32 years of trucking on why they both wanted you.
Well, not only that, but with previous companies I worked for, I had, I was on a oh my God, accident reconstruction team, and that involved commercial vehicles, 18-wheelers, and all that stuff. And we won cases based on my testimony. So it was just really great. I thought for sure they would kick my butt out of there. But nope, I was drawn right into it, and I became the foreman of the jury.
I have to tell you the exploding gas truck story one day.
Wait, what'd you say?
I drove through a fireball that came out the side of a gas truck one day.
I got to hear this.
Well, I gave away the punchline, but I was in a tiny, tiny, tiny little Honda. We were going about 40, 45 miles an hour in some light rush hour traffic across a bridge. And I was up against a concrete wall with no shoulder, just a foot or two to the left window, typical New York super crowded bridge. And that retaining wall, or this, it was the median basically, was taller than my car. And some flames were jutting out of the truck, and everyone was kind of slowing down, including the truck. And it was going to pin me between itself. It wasn't changing lanes, but if more flames were going to shoot out of this truck towards my lane, it was going to be right at me. Because if I stopped and it was stopping, and it was a little ahead of me at the time, I'm like, I'm going to be right where I don't want to be. So I gunned it as best as I could, which meant it barely moved because it was a little tiny Honda. So as I'm trying to get past this truck that's slowing down, a fireball, the width of the lane, the height of the lane, and the depth of that same, big orange fireball shoots out of the left of the truck. It didn't have a loud sound, but a little bit of a boom. And as I'm driving through it, it's putting holes in the windshield because there must have been like pieces of metal or something. And I can't see. I'm worried about getting, shrapnel through my head. So I'm just like ducking down, kind of holding the wheel and keeping driving for about. Anyway, it fizzles out and turns into grease or some kind of smoky goop that's making it hard to see through the windshield. It never actually truly blew up, but some component of it on the upper left did blow out a big old fireball, like, 10 yards across. So that's the exploding gas truck story.
I don't have an exploding gas truck, but I had broke my glasses. And I live in Phoenix, but the place I got my glasses from is in Chandler. That's far from Phoenix, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because, my glasses are broke, I asked my roommate to drive me out to Chandler because I ordered some replacement glasses. And we're on the freeway, and we're in the far right lane, right? And we're going past Tempe Town Lake on the freeway. So to the far right of us, past the freeway, is Tempe Lake, right? And Barney and I, my roommate, me and her are just talking. and all of a sudden, the passenger window explodes into tiny little pieces.
Yep.
And because it's on window tint, it's just flapping, and it's just blowing glass all over the place, people. To this day, I still don't know why that window exploded the way it did.
Huh. Sounds
And
like
I
it might have been hit by a rock or shot.
I honestly don't know. Where would the rock have came from?
Yeah.
You know, because we're on the far right.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to tear the window tint off.
Yeah.
You know, because it's flapping and shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's going to get in your face.
And so I asked Bernie, I was like, had you not been with me, and I tried to explain to you, because we were in her car, right? I was like, if you had not been with me and saw that, and I tried to explain to you what happened, would you have believed me? And she was like, probably not.
Right.
Weird shit just happens, you know?
Well, I mentioned the exploding gas truck story because the Texan used to be on an accident reconstruction team. So I thought I definitely had to tell you that story. So I did it as fast as I could.
Yeah. And man, I don't want to get off into that. I mean,
right.
But,
I know. Yeah.
But you know, I do want to, if you don't mind, address Napster said something
Please.
earlier.
Yeah.
I wrote back the chats here. But at the Texan, Matthew 5:38 through 40, I'm not convinced murder/death penalty falls in the same judgment as tooth for a tooth. Yes, it does. And that's what my whole point was earlier.
Why did you take that off the chart?
My whole point earlier was if I take your tooth, you cannot take my life. You can only take my tooth. If I take your eye, you cannot take anything greater than my eye. That set the standard for justice.
The old Levitical law did allow murder or stoning, which would kill people. Stoning for a good handful of short of murder or short of death crimes. That's the old Levitical system.
Yeah, like adultery was one of those, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're talking about the standards set in America today.
Sure. Yeah, fair.
That the founding fathers set the standard for law and order. Anyway,
I'm not as expert on that.
I gotta say, watching the chat on this whole topic,
yeah,
there is no consensus on this subject at all.
Interesting.
The comments are all over the map. It's a difficult subject. It is very difficult.
You know, I guess, but in my mind, not for me. But hey, man, you guys know who I am and what I'm.
Yeah. So. Well, I do remember spending a large part of my life just having the opinion that it's irreversible. So almost never do it as a country or as a government. Just make it so rare. Yeah.
Let me ask it like this.
Yeah.
If you're caught in the act or it's on video, death penalty.
What about AI?
What do you mean?
Now the video becomes fallible.
Oh, you're talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic right there. But if you don't mind, let me address Pete Aggie. Pete Aggie said, how many teeth taken before you effectively hand down a death sentence in modern times? You can get a full set of fake teeth. I mean, that's a pretty good point. But you know what? And I know this is going to stir up another pot. But what did Jesus say about, if you get slapped, turn the other cheek or something like that?
Yeah, and that thing I don't even understand.
I know that's a totally different avenue that I probably shouldn't even brought up.
Chat brought it up because it was Matthew. Yeah. What else do we need to cover so I can then yangle this thing into just the other topic that we do need to hit?
Wasn't it vengeance?
I'm raising my hand to get into that deceit thing. That caught my fancy earlier.
Yeah.
So you heard my setup for it, right?
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Let me not go first because I totally think I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I'm been trying to sell it for a year. Maybe even more vigorously than you just hinted at.
Okay.
But, well, let me restate what I think your question might have been. If you trick the people, is it always a bad thing?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I would word it differently than
Right.
that.
Isn't that like lying versus a white lie?
Maybe. Yeah. Like,
Well, I would say that the examples that we've talked about are not white lies.
well, I do want to contend against a couple of them, especially the one where Joseph and the land grab. I don't think they were open-eyed. They knew what they were getting into. If they wanted to eat, they sold their land to the state, right?
Yeah,
so there was
that's
no
what
deceit
it looks
there.
like.
Yeah, I don't think there was any deceit. There was it was price gouging. It was highway robbery.
Okay. That's enough.
Is it benevolence?
I don't think it is. It always disturbs me.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to this stuff. I just found it very interesting that there's numerous stories that kind of illuminate a deceitful situation.
Well, but that one's not
And
deceitful. It's just mean.
Well, maybe not that one, since we just discussed it. But what about the other ones? But you don't get a sense that the Bible is condemning those practices in any way. In fact, these people are celebrated. So,
What people are celebrated?
well, with Jacob screwing his brother out of his inheritance essentially twice, you would think that he would be looked upon as a semi-evil person, but it doesn't come out that way.
Well, he has to run away for his life for 21 years.
Because of that?
Yeah, we'll see that in the next couple chapters.
Well, then you also got the argument of who really has God's promise, and isn't that what the fight is in the Middle East all about?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, today or then?
Yeah, then and now. They're still fighting over this shit.
Over land, right?
No, over God's promise.
No, but over occupying the land.
So Esau and Jacob were both promised nations after their line, right? But Muslims look at it like we have God's promise. Christians look at it like we have God's promise. Or
Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're still fighting over that shit to this day. So it's relevant, you know?
That's interesting. Because while I agree, I disagree.
Nice.
Because the fight today in the Middle East is over resources. More than it is land. I mean, all the land's been occupied.
There's settlements. You can drive through and look at them. That's
a different argument. They still fight over this topic right here. The whole land thing, that's different.
Resources probably are a huge part of it, the Texan, but it's played out. I should put it this way. It's played out with occupancy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like I said, I agree, but I disagree based on the economic system the way it is today. Which, I mean, God's promise is, to the Jewish people and the economic prosperities and all that, which apply to today. That's where I agree. But at the same time, there's a military positioning with Russia and Iran, America, and Jerusalem, or Jews, whatever you want to call them, and China, and So I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, but
Yes.
yet it does. Yes, you're right. It does boil down to God's promise.
Right. Like I see your point. So all these other state actors might be playing on people's emotions and heartstrings. So it's complicated. But, well, and I think you can motivate. All right, let me get real controversial. I think it's pretty easy to shake a can on a Sunday afternoon TV show and get lots of money sent to Israel on both sides of that conflict. Is that fair?
Sure.
So it's like you can play on the heartstrings because you're waving the Bible around.
Yeah.
And
I never did like that.
But wait, what's your point?
You can fuel both sides of that conflict and keep whatever the big picture, whatever the game is, you can kind of mesmerize both sides of that game. Because there seem to be two sides. Does Israel have a right to exist? And if so, how much land does it get? Or do you need to wipe it off the face of the earth or at least cut it back a bit? And does it have to be a two-state solution? I'm just stating the problem, right?
But when you're talking about a two-state solution, you're talking about the Palestinians, right?
Yes.
Never has there been a Palestinian country.
Man.
Also,
we don't do this enough on the Foxhole. Let's do this.
There's never been a Palestinian country, but there has been a Jewish, and it was prophesied in the Bible that they would that this actual race of people would be scattered amongst the earth,
right,
and then come back, and prophecy was fulfilled with that. There has never been a Palestinian race or a Palestinian nation.
No, but there is a setup for, and Yoda pointed this out, Ishmael's descendants and Edom's/Esau's descendants to be always button heads against Jacob's descendants.
Also, to illustrate that point, when you go to Mecca and you go to a lot of those religious sites, they separate the times between when Muslims can be there and when Jews can be there, or Christians. And it's because of this fight between God's promise that they have that separation.
And there's going to be that separation up until the third temple.
Right. Yes.
There's going to be that. That's what the Wailing Wall is all about. That separates the Islam from the Jews.
So how it plays out is maybe, I suspect, okay, let me just be super controversial, and I barely know what I'm talking about. Could some, I don't know, maybe Jesuits have whipped up a storyline, or I'm not an expert in like the Islamic backstory or literature, but it seems like enough have been convinced that they should have some brethren living in Palestine.
I've always looked at it like you guys are all descendants of Isaac, so why are y'all fighting over this shit?
What do you mean, y'all? What are you a descendant of?
Yeah.
You just separated yourself from everybody else when you said y'all.
No, I'm talking about the Bible.
I am too. You just mentioned it, but you separated yourself saying y'all are all descendants.
I think he means the people fighting over land squares.
Both descendants
are from Abraham.
Are from not just Abraham, but from their father Isaac. So why are they still fighting over this shit? That's how I always looked at it. You guys they're all related, or we're all related to that bloodline. Unless you're from the line of Cain.
Right, I mean? But Esau wanted to murder Jacob.
So in the conversation we were just having about Muslims and Jews.
Yes.
Regardless as to God's promise, they're all still a descendant from Isaac. So why still fight over this shit after all this time? That's how I look at it.
Well, because the one served the other. That same old pattern, Like the Hamites are the slaves. Now the Ishmaelites are the slaves. Now the Edomites are the slaves.
What family does?
Now to
I,
answer,
I
now to
would like.
answer Texan's question, my mother's mother was Jewish. So I mean, I could have a long conversation about what I am. You know,
Right.
I'll leave it at
I
that.
would. I would
Actually,
like.
actually, by the definition of what makes you Jewish, being mothers, you are Jewish.
What's that?
I said, by the definition of being Jewish passed through the mothers, sounds like you are Jewish.
See, I just learned something. That it's not through the father; it's through the mothers.
It's
on
through
the
Well,
the
Jewish
that's
mother.
side, Duppy.
Talmudic.
I didn't even know that.
It goes through the fathers until you get to the Talmud, is my understanding.
Actually, from what I've seen, what goes through the fathers are the titles and
Yes,
inheritances and things like that.
but the tribal
What
stuff goes through the mothers.
Right.
You know what? That would make sense because the mitochondria is through the mother.
Right. Good point.
I just,
So-
if you don't mind, real quick, let me address the neither. There never was an American nation either until there was. Right, and there's still not a Palestinian nation. Anyway, go ahead, carry on.
That's funny.
Sorry, that was just eating at me there. Sorry. guys.
No, but that's. I mean, your point is legit.
All right. Can I tell you guys a little story?
Yeah.
I really shouldn't derail my own thing, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm in a marketplace in East Jerusalem, and I've got to buy a Yasser Arafat scarf. I have to. How can you not? A genuine, those black and white checkered things. You know the one I'm talking about? You haven't seen them in a while, but so anyway, and you can get them for pretty cheap, but I want a pretty decent one. And of course, here comes the haggling. I'm bored, but I don't want to be too rude. So I'm like, all right, let's haggle. And part of his salesmanship, and it just cracked me up. I put it around my neck or whatever, or I tied it on or whatever, and he shows me a mirror and he's like, "Look, you look just like Yasser Arafat." And I'm just like, "You don't know who you're trying to sell to."
That's like telling a fat lady she looks like Beyonce.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember in the late 70s. I was born in 69, so the late 70s, and had a bicycle, right?
Yeah.
And the banana seats were really popular back then.
Yep.
And I remember going to a Gibson's and replacing my my Schwinn bicycle seat with a banana seat, and it had a picture of the Ayatollah, and it said Ayatollah Assahola, and you set your butt down on the Ayatollah's face every time you
Nice.
rode that bike, man.
That's hilarious. By the way, Gibson's. Not everybody knows what that was.
Yeah, you're from Texas, so you
Yep.
know. Yeah. I just thought that was funny.
That's awesome. So deceit, I think, just to try to answer you, Duppy, I think you have to extract, like, let me change the question to, does the God of the Bible condone those lies when those people tell them? Or is it just telling what happened? Did they misbehave, but it got used for good? Even Joseph says that. You meant to sell me to slavery, but God used it for good.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just curious because it seems like that would be something you wouldn't get out of the New Testament, whereas you get it in spades in the Old one.
Mm-hmm. I really want to be respectful of the heritage that Jesus taught out of, but it seems like the people that carried that heritage forward consistently acted creepy. But when do people not? All people, not just one group.
You know what I still get conflicted on? Some people think the Old Testament isn't relevant because of the New Testament.
Right.
I still think the Old Testament is relevant.
Agreed.
Well, of course it is. It's world history. I mean, it's in the Old Testament about, starts out with Genesis and, Noah and the flood. And, so it's very relevant. Talks about the Nephilim.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Dude, you know what? If they actually come back and walk the earth,
Trippy.
I'm gonna be like, I told you so to so many atheists. Because they're gonna be tall as shit, 20 feet tall.
Do aliens count?
Yes.
I don't believe in aliens.
Those are demons.
I believe in demons.
Yep.
Well, Yoda, take a look at the NBA commissioner and tell me what you think.
Oh, let me pull up a picture.
Oh, wow. You're not going to go there, are you, Duffy?
Oh, yeah.
Does he have a weird shaped head? Does he have a weird shaped head?
He's got a weird everything, man.
Is he redheaded, hairy, and got a second row of teeth and all that? Then
Adam Silver.
Yep.
Okay, let me share screen out.
Okay, so
this guy is as tall. I don't know if the picture you show will show it, but this guy is as tall as an average NBA player, I think.
But tall is different than Nephilim.
No. Go take a look. What I usually say is aliens do walk among us. Just check this guy out.
Yeah, that dude's.
I'm with Black Yoda. Demons do.
Well, this guy could be a demon. Oh,
he looks more like a demon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's up to you to decide.
Well, you make a good point, Hoss.
Namster, Jesus brought a new covenant.
That's
True
what I was
statement.
going to go with.
Yeah.
He could fly with those ears, can he?
Yeah. He's Dumbo.
He didn't want to get caught in a hurricane.
Sneezer is. I'll just be.
He's finally. I saw the first article this past week. He's finally getting deservedly slammed for what the NBA has become.
He looks like a Nosferatu.
He does.
Yeah.
Why is his eyes so close together?
Because he looks like Nosferatu.
Inbreeding. Watch my shows.
Yeah. I don't watch sports anymore, so I'm not up on this stuff.
I don't either. I just saw a picture of this guy once and went, whoa.
I will go to a Detroit Cardinals game in football.
There you go. Nosferatu. Perfect, G-Ross.
The fact that somebody already put that picture together.
Crowdsourcing.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Creepiest.
That's from the old movie, too.
Yeah.
That's some creepy crap.
That is too funny.
Oh, look at that one in the middle there. It looks like somebody's. Oh, yeah, they're making those comparisons. So I'm not the only one.
No. Yeah. I just typed in Adam Silver Nosferatu and got a bunch of pictures.
That's crazy, man. I wonder what his hands look like.
I swear I was thinking the same thing.
I'll bet he's got fingernails that are about 4 inches long.
Let's see if we can find.
Like he could do a bump off of each fingernail. Not, I wouldn't know anything about that. Just saying.
Oh shit! You got that long ass pinky nail.
Yeah, exactly. Black Yoda knows what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, I just know of it. The only drug I've ever done in my life is.
You've seen them though. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah. The only drug I've ever done is marijuana and pharmaceuticals.
Everett Home making a sales pitch for the pre-trib rapture. I like it. Saying hopefully, he's not saying for sure.
That is a trip, man. I mean, that's one white-ass white boy. I mean, he got the blood red lips, like ain't slept in 4 days, eyes, and hair falling out, and just pale as can be, man.
And he got a neck like Adam Schiff.
Pencils. Prairie Fire calls him Nas Silveratu.
Not silver.
Oh, you guys want to hear something crazy?
Yes.
Since we're talking about Nosferatu. So you know all the traits on how you fight a vampire, like
Oh yeah.
with garlic and stuff like that.
And the steak in the heart. Yeah.
So check it out. I was watching a video about red mercury, right?
Yep.
And they had it in a vial, and they had the vial laying on the table sideways. And when you hold the garlic next to the vial, it pushes it the way a magnet will push another magnet.
Interesting.
Opposites
Well, that's
attract, or
weird.
Oh man, that was the coolest shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was
Oh, you know what I bet it is?
Hmm.
Mercury is a metal and it's a liquid.
hmm
So if it's in motion, I think it will generate a magnetic field.
Yes.
Well, no,
The
this is
red,
garlic.
if the red is iron rich, it will respond to that magnetic field.
No, it was a piece of garlic. It was just one clove of garlic, and
Oh, that's right, garlic. I was thinking red mercury, but
no.
Never
The,
mind.
the red mercury was what was in the vial.
right.
It's laying sideways, and it's not in motion. But as they get closer with the garlic clove, it starts to push the vial because the mercury is reacting to the garlic.
Creepy.
what
And
does
there was
that got to do with vampires?
Garlic and vampires. That's how you repel vampires is with the garlic.
But what does mercury have to do with repelling vampires?
That it had the trait of the vampire responding to the mercury and repulsion.
Okay.
So do vampires have red mercury as blood?
I guess.
That's another reason why I brought that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just the way my nerd brain works.
But if
Yep.
you take a wooden stake and drive it through his heart, then you're all good. And you ain't got to worry about mercury or garlic or anything like that.
Or
Isn't that capital? Wouldn't that be capital punishment though?
He's already dead.
Yeah. He's the undead. Yeah.
don't forget
Oh,
sunlight.
that's
does a
double
number on him,
jeopardy
too.
right there. He's the undead, and now you're gonna dead him again. So yeah, something like that.
Oh man, that's funny. That's funny.
Don't forget sunlight does a number on him too.
Oh
Right.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right. Oh man, that's too rich. I love these conversations on Wednesday nights. Ah.
Oh, it's the werewolf and the silver bullet.
Yes.
That's what it is. So if you hit
these-
him with a can of Coors, you're good. Yeah.
Sneezer brings up a really good point. The vampire hopes you believe that and try to fight him off with a piece of garlic.
Right.
Oh man.
So did you cover everything, G Ross?
Absolutely.
Now that we're just being goofy.
We're pretty
Absolutely.
much being goofy. Oh.
We did. We hit all the points. Unless Duppy, did we do justice to your question?
I think we got some interesting ideas to mull over.
Yeah.
Wait, what was this question again?
I'd like to revisit it when you get to Joseph.
Yeah. Which won't be that long. I'm going to do all of chapter 28 next week and all of chapter 29 the next week after that.
Which one was Duppy's question again?
Deception.
Oh yeah.
Is it ever does the Bible condone some deception?
I've used deception in a way where I'm not lying, but I'm using wordplay game to tell the truth.
Oh,
do you understand what I'm saying?
Were you running for office?
I'll be right. Yeah, exactly. I'll be right back, guys.
I would lump what Yoda just said into the category of a white lie.
Yeah.
But
I don't
see
lie.
these instances as told in the Bible. in the Bible as being white lies. They're more significant than that.
Yeah. You know, I've walked around thinking that do not bear false witness means never, ever, 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 ever lie at all. But I think I was too strict on that. I do think later Paul or somebody says, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. So I think they like plain talk. But I don't know. I would rather no lies. I hope that's ultimately where we get to.
Well, that's how I am. Like, I don't like to lie. I feel wrong. Like, physically, I feel wrong. You know what I mean? So when I want to be misleading to not lie,
Mm-hmm.
I use wordplay to get around that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that lawyer bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right.
So technically, I'm not lying, but I'm being deceitful.
Right.
Well, okay. So I missed that.
Hey, wait. I just remember one more Texan. Holy
that, bro?
water.
What about it?
Yeah.
Another one of
Catholic
those
thing.
vampire things.
Oh yeah, holy water.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I'm not Catholic, so I don't believe in that. But does the Bible?
Well, wait. I want to visit the holy water real quick.
Wait a minute. I'm stuck on the last question, if you don't mind.
Let Texan go first because I kind of derailed him.
That's fine.
About deception. So, yeah. If there wasn't deception, there wouldn't be free will, and without free will, then Adam and Eve would not have been able to do what they did in the Garden of Eden.
That's a good point.
Good point.
Yeah, that's another instance of it.
So now about the holy water, because that's a Catholic thing, man.
Well, hold on. Let me put some science on it. They've already proven water has memory.
Yes.
So how you make holy water is putting your faith in God and into the water.
Okay, well then look at baptism. Because when in the Catholic belief that holy water can only be holy whenever a priest of the Catholic religion blesses it, which is a bunch of horse hockey, then does it become holy?
Anybody can put memory into water. They've already done experiments with rice inside of water, and I forget it was an Asian scientist, and they had the jars of rice in the water separated. They would speak positive to one jar on a daily basis, and they would speak negative to another jar on a daily basis. And the one that they spoke negative to got black eventually, but the one that they spoke positive to stayed fresh. I mean, I could have this conversation all night.
Okay, well, I can't.
So I got a question.
So
if you took a wooden cross and soaked it in garlic water, would that be a guaranteed kill?
Yes. Especially if you sharpen the foot of the cross.
Poof, up in smoke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I said wooden cross.
With a flashlight attached to the end to, throw the light.
That it was charged with solar power.
There you go. Yeah.
With some taser prongs at the end of it. Just in case.
And now I don't know how long you got on this, G-Ross, but that really brings me to another point of how Hollywood has romanticized the vampire and the Antichrist type of individual. I mean, from the 70s to the 80s, and sexualized vampires. And what do you have today on all these dang Netflix shows? Or I don't know. I don't even watch TV anymore. So, but it's all about vampires, and they're like the new heroes and sexualized and all this stuff. Man, I just think it's freaking, satanic as hell. That's what I think it is.
I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you guys know who Anne Rice is, the author?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Lestat stuff.
Well, she had a series of books called The Vampire Chronicles.
Yeah.
I read all of those when I was younger. The first one was Interview with a Vampire. They did a movie off of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another one was Queen of the Damned. They did a movie off of that one with Aaliyah. And back then, I thought those were the coolest books. And I wasn't all about my Bible the way I am now,
Right.
So I understand that point completely, Texan.
Well, yeah, it was a corruption of society, turned away from God. I mean, all the way back to the early '80s, late '70s, or whatever. That man, I've just seen the progression over time. That now they're convincing these young little girls that teeny boppers and everything that, hey, man, vampires are sexy.
And it's not even just vampires. It's all things evil. It's all things demonic and Luciferian.
Yeah,
Sure.
it goes back before the 70s even. Rosemary's Baby came out in 67.
Yeah, where that little fist came up out the crib at the end. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember this shit. The Exorcist. What was that other one? God, I can't remember the name of it. They had a series of movies. The baby was born from like a jackal or something. And it was a little boy.
Oh, that was The Omen.
Yes, boy.
Yeah.
Was it The Omen?
Yeah.
And they sexualized Satan is basically what they've done. And that's why we're basically where we're at today. There's a lot of points in between, but we ain't got time for that tonight. That's basically how we got where we're at today. And I don't know how to say this. Everett Home or Everett Thome, whatever. Catholicism is ideal worship.
I think he means idol worship.
I don't know. He might be making a play on words there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I got some Filipino friends that are Catholic.
Well,
and they asked me to go to church with them one day.
Should I leave my opinion about Catholicism aside until a later day, or
I'm 100% comfortable to hear it now.
I had never been to a Catholic church before.
Yeah.
Right. I was raised Baptist.
I sat through.
It was the creepiest thing, and I just didn't feel right. It sounded like they were chanting. Like it didn't feel like like when I go to a Baptist church. It was and now that I've learned so much about like the Vatican, I get why I felt like that now. You know what I mean?
Catholicism is everything that the Bible is not. I mean, it goes against everything that the Bible teaches. And at one point,
agree with you.
And at one point in time, even the so-called membership, which we would call in a Baptist church, Southern Baptist membership, would be you couldn't read the Bible, you couldn't own a Bible, you couldn't have a Bible, and it had to be dictated to you by man. And whenever they go to confession and stuff like that, you're confessing to a man that is going to absolve you of your sins when he gives you his command. Now that is just satanic as can be. And not only that, but let's talk about the Pope for just a minute. The vicar, if you don't know what that word means, look it up, because that means that the Pope is the Christ. And the only way to heaven is through the Pope. Catholicism is the most evil freaking religion out there outside of Islam.
Well, let me say this to anybody that's in the chat that's Catholic, no disrespect.
And you don't worship idols, and you don't pray for the dead. I mean, the Bible, everything the Bible says you're not supposed to do, Catholicism does.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Because it was, I swear to you, I went to church with them and watching them do their like chant, it sounded like a chant to me. And it didn't feel right.
Deppy, did you finish your observation?
Well, my only exposure to Catholicism, other than studying where it came from with all this stuff that I'm researching, was a 3-hour-long wedding in the deep swamp of Louisiana in summer in a church that had no air conditioning, wearing a suit. So my recollection of it is rather hellish.
Are you talking about the Blues Brothers Part 2?
No, I was there.
Yeah, I just got back from a weekend hanging out with my Catholic in-laws. It was fun.
Man.
Do y'all talk about religion at all?
I tried really hard to not tell them all the stuff the Texan just said.
Hospitality, Southern hospitality. G. Ross is from Texas.
They make really good food: eggplant parmesan, chicken parmesan, sausage and peppers. I don't want to blow my ride.
I totally get it, man.
Hey, G. Ross. Since Thaggy's playing coy with us, he asked.
Yeah, we do have to answer that thing.
You saw it?
Let me real quick, because I would really enjoy any foxholeites that want to public or privately come at me about Catholicism. I'll take the slings and arrows. I essentially agree with you, the Texan, the way you summarized and described. But
I'll
I also
take a
think
flamethrower to it, brother.
Say again.
I'll take a flamethrower to that religion.
But you guys know kind of my approach. Like my dad never renounced Catholicism. He stopped going to church. He felt disillusioned by it. Like he didn't, the controversies, they really drove him crazy. And I kept trying to kind of get him to come into a Protestant church. And he just was like, nah, so he never, and he's 74 living in Colorado now. I got people in my life, loved ones that, I'm going to stay civil with. And also, ultimately, at the end of the day, God's going to judge a man's heart. Like, I feel like it's not a death sentence to be a Catholic, but you got to, look what you just said, the Texan, read that Bible and let it do its work.
I got a question on this.
It's everything the Bible ain't.
Would Episcopalian be similar to Catholicism?
What was it called?
I don't think so. I think he was saying Presbyterianism. Is that the one?
No,
they're pretty hardcore Protestants.
Yeah.
Not too different from Baptists, actually. Just differ on primarily baptism, infant baptism. They think it's okay.
Because I don't know too much about how they do theirs,
Hey, I got a question to follow up on what Texan said a minute ago.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember hearing that the Catholic Church did not want the flock to be able to read the Bible for a very, very, very long time.
For centuries.
Is the discrepancy that Texan described, is that perhaps a reason why?
They wanted control.
Wait a minute. Okay, so Duppy, you got to think back a few hundred years and why this country was actually founded. And why that the founding fathers said there will not be there's separation of church and state, which is not in the Constitution, which a lot of people think it is, but it ain't. Right. There's an open letter from Jefferson to Congress and a separation of church and state. That's so there would not be, he believed that there should not be a government religion, right? Like there is today, which is called global warming. That is a government freaking religion.
So science is the new religion.
Wait a minute. Let me finish. So if you back up a little bit, they didn't want you reading the Bible. They didn't want you knowing anything. And if you go back to the little short dude, the French guy, what's his name? Napoleon. Yeah. Who took the Catholic Church and took government, combined it into one. And here we go with the death penalty in America. Okay. How many people were put to death in the name of God under the Catholic Church and the government, because the Catholic Church was the freaking government? That's why this country was founded. So there's your answer there, brother.
That's not the question I asked, though.
Oh, sorry.
The question I asked was, given your eloquent description of the discrepancies between what's in the Bible and the practices of the Catholic Church, is that probably the main reason why the Catholic Church for so long did not, I mean, we're talking at least 1,000 years.
Okay, I got it.
Did not want the flock to see the actual Bible.
Okay, I got it. And so here's the answer to that, and that does tie to America. See, it was illegal for anyone to own a Bible, and
Right.
okay, and because they didn't want you educated, because knowledge, education, knowledge is dangerous to the government entities, right?
Right.
Okay. So they didn't want you knowing that knowledge. Just like today in America, they don't teach kids cursive anymore. Why? Because of the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and all that, all the founding documents of the founding fathers were written in cursive. You got kids today that cannot read cursive. So therefore, it is dictated to them by the government. It's not that they're not allowed to read it today like they were not allowed to read it back then, because that was a death sentence. They want to keep you stupid, dumb, and in line.
And by you not having a Bible, they can be selective about the material that they choose to share with you.
They told you what their truth was, and you were to believe it or not.
Yep.
Either that or it was punishable by death. And just like I just said, in today's society here in America, which is a crying damn shame, cursive is not taught anymore. There's two generations that can't even read cursive, much less write it, which the founding documents were written in.
So I'm taking this as a yes to my question.
I guess so, bro.
I think it's necessary.
Am I right or am I wrong, though? That's what.
No, you're right, but
I think you're right.
And then the guy that translated
took a while to get there.
And the guy that translated it to English, they killed him.
Yep.
Yeah, that was Tyndale. Somebody mentioned him in the chat earlier.
Yeah.
So do you guys mind if we hit the Thaggy thing and then maybe start winding it down?
Yeah, what was that?
Just because it's two.
Or a comment.
Duppy, what was the Thaggy thing?
Oh man.
I
thought you saw it and had it memorized.
I did.
It had to do with Isaac forgiving the deception or something like that.
Now he brings up an interesting point. The second time he brought it up. Yeah. He's like, he's kind of thinking maybe Isaac ended up playing this the way Isaac maybe wanted to. He's like, nope, not much blessing for you.
Yeah. So was it kind of like, well, it's too late, I can't do anything about it?
Yeah, maybe Isaac wasn't so upset with the outcome.
Yeah.
Which I never considered. But also, I think buried in the question, and the first time Thaggy stated it, and I had brought this up a couple hours ago. Did he really? Could he not give anything better? Like, it's like Santa Claus' little bag of gifts. Was it just that empty?
Well, then we were talking about, whether or not he had cataracts.
Yep.
Then you could ask yourself, was he senile to be tricked that way? You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's all kinds of ways you can look at that.
That's a good point.
But if he can't see, is it necessary for him to be senile at all?
No, I'm just saying that there's a possibility there.
He clearly thinks Jacob might have tried to fool him. He talks that way. He's like, well, I don't know. You might be, Esau.
All I know is my dad would have beat my ass with a freaking belt for that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But instead, he's just like, well. And this is what the point I was trying to make at the very, very tail end of the chapter. Isaac must have turned to Rebekah and said, "Why is Jacob going to Laban's again?" Because she says, "I just don't. I want him to not pick a wife from around here."
Wait,
As a cover story.
Earlier, I was asking, why does Rebecca favor Jacob so much? Did Isaac favor Jacob too?
Well, that's what Thaggy is making me start to wonder. Isaac liked the food that Esau brought in, but he's not. He might be kind of helping to say, well, what can I do? I gave it all to Jacob.
Maybe they just secretly thought the hairy Wookiee was really creepy.
Right.
But then again, they do say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
Exactly.
Good point. Because when I'm fat and happy, hardly anything can piss me off at that moment. You know what I mean? I want to take a nap at that point.
Right.
All right. So we'll get Thaggy in next week to run a couple discussion questions if he's willing.
Might have to work.
What happened to Anka Vanka? I haven't seen her in a while.
She's probably lurking.
Yeah, she lurks. I can sometimes call her out. Like she'll think she's lurking, but I know she's there, and I'll type some frogs into the chat, and then she'll pop in.
Yeah. Well, if you put a good genealogy bit, she'll also usually have something to say.
Oh, I don't know if you guys would be interested in this, but I've been talking with Pete about doing a show on the East India Company in the not too distant future, if you guys are interested.
I will.
I am nerd about that kind of stuff.
Talking about the trading routes.
Yeah.
Not the routes, but where they came from, who controlled them, where are they now?
So I was having a conversation about that a while ago. I don't remember if it was this show. I'm thinking it was.
You know, that's really cool, Duppy, actually, because I'm going to bring it back around to Kamala Harris. Where's she from? What's her lineage?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What were the trading routes they were dealing?
Well, actually, you know what's interesting about what you just said, and it never occurred to me, is that she is Indian on her
father's side.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main slave traders.
Yeah, it could be possible. She's got a little English nobility blood from a long way back.
Well, they already proved that her family lineage owned slaves.
Yeah, I did look into her lineage, and it's pretty easy to find that ancestor.
Plus,
he was a black guy that owned slaves, though.
Yeah.
But then going beyond him, it's just dead. I can't find anything. I really wanted to do that one, but I just ran into the dead end.
Wait, she wasn't born here, was she?
That's under debate, I think, isn't it?
I couldn't tell you. But I think G. Ross is trying to shut the show down tonight. He's pulling the curtain down. He did his cute little butt walk over there a while ago, a little duck walk. So
no, I wasn't even paying attention. But I don't think she was born here. So if they take Biden out, that puts McCarthy in as president.
Perhaps.
Ooh. Sorry if I mooned the camera. I didn't think about that.
Your white ass legs just blinded everybody. Dude.
Yep.
But no, awesome. we can do closing thoughts.
Let's do. Perfect.
I mean, we've been at this for what, 3 hours now?
Yeah, you know, I wish I could go later. If work keeps calming down, maybe I can start going later. It's getting a little better.
Dog days of summer are approaching.
How about I be the first one to go out in the car tonight? How's that?
Please do it, brother the Texan.
All right, man. Look forward to seeing you on Friday. Hopefully all that culminates together.
Yep.
But ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you right now, look, Mark Twain is one of my favorite guys in the world. He was a rock star back in his day, right?
Mhm.
And he had some of the most greatest wisdom that could ever be shared outside of the Bible. And it's with this right here, this saying I want to leave you with. It's easier to fool people than it is to convince them that they have been fooled. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, man, thank you so very much for having me on, folks. Man, I appreciate it. And,
Texan, that's like my favorite quote of all time the last 5 years in explaining to people what's going on.
yeah, I get it. But hey, man, I'm out of here. Thank you guys for having me on here, G. Ross, Black Yoda, Duppy. God bless you. God bless America. And as always, I'll see you down the road.
All right.
Thanks,
nice talking
Host.
to you.
Nice exit. Who wants to try to follow that?
I'll go.
Right on, Duppy.
Well, very interesting conversation. I'm glad I didn't have to miss most of the first part this time. I missed a little bit of it, but I wasn't thinking that I'd probably call in today because I really had nothing in my head before the show started. But I think the sign of a good show is when you get inspired over the course of it to engage. And so that's kind of what happened. So thanks, guys.
Nice.
All right.
All right. With that, I am going to bail.
Thank you,
Adios,
Duppy.
amigos.
It was good talking to you.
Yep.
And then there were two.
So I don't make the same mistake as I did today. We're leaving off at 28, right?
All of chapter 28 will be next week. That's my plan.
Okay.
So 28 verse 1 to the end.
To touch on what the Texan said about Mark Twain, I never experienced that more than when COVID happened and we were trying to be truthers on why not to take the vax. And we got censored.
Yeah.
You know? That's exactly what happened. That saying, you couldn't convince them that they were fooled.
That's right.
Even now. But good conversation as always. I'm not disappointed. I mean, we touch on a lot of different topics on just what little information, that we're given. And to Duppy's point, the Catholic Church back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I'm talking about the early hundreds, or like during the Dark Ages, especially. You had bishops that had the same kind of power as kings and were very political. And eventually, coming to America, you have freedom of religion. So everything is about evolution, but be careful about evolution in so-called science, because science isn't necessarily truth. Like Fauci, trust the science, no, fuck that, trust God. And I'll leave that one right there.
Love it.
So goodbye, chat. Same time, same, next week. Looking forward to it. Later.
Thanks for being here. I'll close this out.
All right.
Thank you, brother. Let's do some things. I'm going to start up. Oh, a Y Scarbar says, I need USDT in BC game. How can I buy? I don't know what that means. I'll just put, I don't know. All right, let's start us up some ending music, and we'll start doing some house cleaning. Back on track for well, first of all, thank you to the panel. Thanks, co-host Black Yoda. Thanks, caller inners Duppy, the Texan. It's such a grace that they stop by and give of themselves. It's not mentioned enough. And I think they really made for a good conversation. What happened? Is it just me, or did my thing just die? What the heck? Oh, there it is. I don't know if you guys heard that halt. That's the most important thing, is to thank the panel. So, some upcoming stuff. Friday, I would say watch the G. Ross channel, because depending on when I may meet certain traveling Foxhole family, they might be on the show, because I might have my phone and be doing the show on my phone. 5:30. It might be a short show, but I'll try really hard to do something at 5:30 for at least a few minutes. Sunday will be Armor Up at 9 p.m. Texas time, and then back here on Wednesday at 11 p.m. Texas time for Chapter 28. Let me release the Scratchy Scratch. How dare I not release that earlier? While I'm breaking down the rest of the gear, I'm going to swing over to... let's say hi to L. Why not? That's probably what I'll do. Alright, and with that, I will head out. I'm so tired. I love you all. Thank you for spending time with us. We're joined on Fridays by co-host Angular. This has been G. Ross, and you are the underscore. Be sure to catch us on the foxhole.app, DLive, YouTube, or Facebook. Current shows include The Bread Pill Weekly. You've been red pilled, now be the red pill. You're out of the oven and ready for delivery on our weekly alternative news roundup and call-in show on Foxhole, DLive, YouTube, and Facebook every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Central, co-hosted by G. Ross and Angular. Current shows include Epistemology for Fun and Profit, where woo meets goo. You're in the woo, and the woo is in you. A philosophical call-in show with occasional guest interviews, diving into the oldest questions. Most episodes are exclusively on the foxhole.app, Sunday at 11:30 p.m. Central. Current shows include 9dNation, the nation with no denomination. Declare to the custom agents any edible plants or miscellaneous worldviews. We take a look back at how we got here, eventually leading into a regular Wednesday night Bible study at 11 p.m. Central. Catch us on the foxhole.app, DLive, YouTube, and Facebook. Our Friday co-host is Angular. This has been G. Ross, and you are the underscore.